Chapter 501. The heavy snowfall lasted 3 days before it ceased. In the Jingyi garden, the green pines and cypresses were weighed down by snow on their branches, and the air was exceptionally fresh. For the past few days, Liu Yao had been confined at home, fully committed to breaking through the leakless realm. He was only one step away, and once he broke through, he'd have enough true qi to activate his martial techniques with his mind, and his strength would surge dramatically. Yu Yanmei, being someone who had gone through it all, had a lot of experience with breaking through the leakless realm. Initially, she kindly accompanied him and even paused her own cultivation, fearing that Liu Yao might encounter some mishap. But after being dearly pampered by the young man 9 times in 3 days, Yu Yanmei realized that her presence was having the opposite effect, so she sternly gave some instructions before leaving. Feeling a bit cooped up after staying indoors for 3 days, Yu Yanmei went out to the mountains and took several deep breaths of fresh air. At that time on Xiangshan Mountain, the red leaves and ginkgos that hadn't yet fallen created a beautiful scene against the white snow, entitled Snow Accenting Colored Leaves. Master, a delighted voice suddenly called out. Li Pei had returned. She grabbed her master's arm and smiled. It's great to see you as soon as I get back, master. Has my husband made a breakthrough yet? It's not that fast, we've only just begun. Yu Yanmei patted her disciple's head while smiling warmly. His Majesty looks spirited. It seems you've had a good few days. Why are you teasing me too, Master? Li Pei pouted. The imperial palace is so boring, come and stay with me. Why don't you get your husband to accompany you? I don't want that lecture. If anyone saw us, I'd die of embarrassment. Master and disciple chatted idly for a while when, coincidentally, a group of people appeared at the foot of Xiangshan Mountain. As Li Pei and Yu Yanmei looked on, disgust appeared on both of their faces. The newcomers were Yun Qinglin and her disciples from the joyful sect, carrying a sedan chair covered in tight tarpaulin. Without any hesitation, the master and disciple duo blocked their way. Li Pei with a frosty expression inquired coldly, what does the joyful sect seek here? Yun Qinglin arched her back provocatively, performing a flirtatious deep curtsy. This humble one misses Lord Liu, so I came to visit, and I've brought gifts too. Seeing her act this way infuriated Li Pei, and she sternly replied, what gives you the right to come here, scram? Tisk, tisk, tisk. Such majestic imperial authority. Yun Qinglin's face wore a smile, but her eyes held contempt. However, this humble one has already informed Lord Liu, and he has consented to my visit. My husband agreed. Li Pei glanced at the odd-looking sedan chair, thinking, could there be a woman inside? She immediately wanted to go up and check. Yun Qinglin stepped forward to block her, offering a fake smile. This is for Lord Liu. Perhaps it's best for your majesty to adhere to proper female virtues and not pry. The disciples of the joyful sect also followed behind their sect master, firmly guarding the sedan chair. Facing obstruction, Li Pei coldly stated, you really do not know when to stop pushing your luck. I'm thinking of your majesty's best interests, fearing you won't be able to explain yourself to Lord Liu. Yun Qinglin laughed seductively, clearly unafraid of Li Pei's threats. In her heart, she regarded Li Pei as nothing more than a woman who had risen in rank by selling her body. She herself was very close with Liao Qi and also shared a bond with Madame Xiao. With the great gift she brought today, which was sure to impress Lord Liu, she felt there was nothing to fear at the moment. But the next second, Li Pei waved her hand, and 3 spiritual sparrowhawks dove down like lightning, surrounding the joyful sect's party. Now larger, with bodies over 5 meters long and wingspans of 10 meters, their feathers gleamed with a metallic cold light. In that moment, targeted by the 3 ferocious birds, the joyful sex group felt their martial intuition triggering frantic warnings, filled with deep nervousness. Unable to be sure that the opposition wouldn't dare to attack, Yun Qinglin hastily held up the walnut given by Liu Yao. I am a guest of Lord Liu, is this how you, as his woman, welcome guests? Seeing how tense the other party was, Li Pei burst into laughter. Just then, 3 spiritual sparrowhawks spotted the walnut and humanely turned to her, as if asking whether to attack. Li Pei just wanted to scare the other party, so she waved her hand and let the 3 little guys leave. The delegation from the joyful sect finally breathed a sigh of relief. Yun Qinglin felt humiliated, her face turning sour. Li Pei, with her martial prowess on full display, scolded, Yun Qinglin, you are nothing but a maid. Put away that foxy demeanor while you're here, or if I see it again, I'll tear you apart alive. Yun Qinglin was unwilling to accept this and was about to retort with a sharp tongue. At that moment, Yu Yanmei came over and said, "Let's go, there's no need to waste time with this kind of person." From beginning to end, she didn't even glance at Yun Qinglan, completely disregarding her presence. A vicious look flashed in Yun Qinglan's eyes, and then suddenly, she thought of something. She covered her mouth, pretending to be shocked, and exclaimed, "Sect Master Yu? It's been a few days since I've seen you, and you, a famously icy beauty, how have you lost your purity? Who did it?" Following that, Yun Qinglan acted as if she had a sudden realization, "This servant understands now, you and your disciple truly have some clever tricks. No wonder you could charm an emperor into bed." This was an overt mockery implying that Li Pei's position was obtained by offering herself and her disciple. Yu Yanmei had already stopped in her tracks, her hand resting on the hilt of her sword. Smiling, Yun Qinglan continued, "Sect Master Yu, your eyes are brimming with lustful spring waters, it must be that these past days you've often had secret meetings with your lover, and within 2 hours you've made merry, am I right?" It couldn't be denied that the joyful sect's face reading skills were exceptional, she had guessed everything correctly. Li Pei also gave her own master an odd look. Yu Yanmei's reaction was very direct. She drew the divine sword Tai on the spot and slashed straight at Yun Qinglan. The sword was imbued with unstoppable determination and killing intent, certainly not just for show. If before, facing the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks was merely nerve-wracking, now Yun Qinglan was truly terrified for her life. Luckily, she was in the spirit-refining Oblivion realm, and in a critical moment, she bellowed, "I have brought the key for the Lord to break through to the flawless realm." As the words fell, a resplendently luminous divine sword stopped less than 3 millimeters from her face. Several strands of her hair had been cut off, slowly drifting to the ground. Yu Yanmei sheathed her sword, casting a cold glance at the shaken Yun Qinglan, then turned and walked away. Li Pei praised, "Master, you really dared to kill her. Aren't you afraid Liu Yao will blame you?" Yu Yanmei didn't look back as she responded, "An outsider like her, if killed, is just killed. What can Liu Ziazi possibly do to me?" Yun Qinglan shuddered with fear, swearing never to provoke the icy beauty again. "Everyone's here." At that time, Liu Yao, hearing the commotion, came over. Seeing the tense atmosphere, he changed the subject, "What has Sect Master Yun brought over?" He looked towards the carriage Yun Qinglan had brought, his curiosity piqued. Bowing gracefully, Yun Qinglan said crisply, "To report to the Lord, this is a token of this servant's sentiment." She clapped her hands. From the tightly sealed carriage, a person emerged. Li Pei and Yu Yanmei also looked on curiously, but to their surprise, it wasn't a woman who came out, but a joyful sect elder Duan Zhigui. He appeared dazed, with a crooked mouth and skewed eyes, occasionally making strange laughter. He had turned into an idiot. Everyone puzzled over what Yun Qinglan was scheming with her opaque move. After letting all her disciples take the empty carriage away, Yun Qinglan finally revealed, "This servant has used a secret method to erase this man's consciousness. He shall break through to the flawless realm before the Lord as a demonstration." Chapter 502. Yun Qinglan took a step forward and respectfully explained to Liu Yao. "Several months ago, your 2 senior sisters subdued this scoundrel. As a servant, I gathered disciples to take turns in performing extreme bliss devil dance to control his mind. Today, the purpose is to make him forcibly break through his current realm, so you may observe and learn." Upon hearing this, everyone was initially stunned. Duan's Higi had already been reduced to a simpleton, it was impossible for such a ghastly figure to successfully break through his realm, he couldn't even save his own life. But after a moment of thought, it dawned on them this was precisely what Liu Yao lacked the most. Having a reference is very important on the path of cultivation, and Yu Yanmei had played such an indispensable role. Whenever there was confusion, one touch would suffice, a probe inside, and everything would instantly become simple and clear. As the saying goes, learn from the past, and it will serve as a guide for the future. The experiences of success are certainly crucial, but the lessons learned from failures are also important. Observing how Duan's Higi fails and perishes during his breakthrough could serve as a guide for the future. In doing so, Liu Yao could avoid falling into the same pitfalls when he attempts his own breakthrough. This was, without a doubt, a great favor, and he earnestly said, "Sect Master Yun has been considerate, you have indeed given me a great gift." To have an innate expert willingly sacrifice himself must have been incredibly troublesome, it's unknown how much effort it took. Yun Qinglan, with a smile, said, "My lord, there's no need for politeness, this is what I should do. Without you, I would have long been defiled by this scoundrel. These words came from Yun Qinglan's heart. If it wasn't for Liu Yao sending the Liao family sisters to save her, she would have long been played alive and harvested to death. Her attitude of not taking credit, not being self-important instantly increased others' fondness of her. Liu Yao nodded in approval and said, "You have done well, and I will surely repay you in the future." Yun Qinglan was overjoyed and quickly stated, "I do not seek repayment, as long as you are pleased, that is all I ask for." Liu Yao smiled and said no more, he would remember this kindness and was sure to lift her up in the future. Afterward, everyone headed to the cultivation quiet room together. The Liao family sisters were also called over, and even Sui Arya was summoned to join in the observation and benefit. The three women were both surprised and excited, with Liao Qi repeatedly thanking Yun Qinglan for helping her beloved. Once everything was ready, everyone took their seats in succession. Yun Qinglan said, "I will now make this brute forcibly break through his realm for everyone's reference." After speaking, she approached the expressionless Duan's Hegi and whispered in his ear. "Elder Duan, you have absorbed the essence of 3,000 consorts, if not ascending to a faultless state now, then when will you?" Upon hearing this, Duan's Hege's true chi surged tumultuously, and he was about to break through on the spot. This man had cultivated more than 300 aperture points and could be ranked in the first tier within the innate realm. Everyone also focused their spirits and prepared to observe. But Duan's Hege's face showed a struggle, and he kept hesitating to break through his true chi. Yun Qinglan continued to whisper, "Elder Duan, hurry up and break through. Once you do, you can enjoy Qinglan's body." As she spoke, her breath, sweet-smelling as orchids, washed over Duan's Hege's face. Duan's Hege's dull eyes revealed an intense longing and a lascivious light, but each time he approached a breakthrough, his facial features would twist in struggle, resolutely refusing to succumb. Seeing this, Yu Yanmei said, "This man's will to live is playing tricks on him. Even without his wits, his body's instincts remain." Her reasoning was sound, and the onlookers nodded in agreement. The desire to live, to cling to one's life, is an instinct shared by all living beings. Martial artists are especially so, and the higher their realm, the more they fear death. It was no wonder Duan's Hegi wouldn't harm himself. At this critical juncture, with things going awry, Yun Qinglan anxiously addressed Liu Yao, "A small accident has occurred, please forgive this servant's impoliteness." The young lady is, after all, too inexperienced, reacting hastily. Liu Yao reassured her with a smile, "No rush, take your time." Yun Qinglan took a deep breath to regain her composure, suppressing the rage of wanting to tear Duan's Hegi limb from limb, and initiated great joy in the dance of heavenly demons. She intended to use such a replenishing divine skill to bring this wretch under control. There she was, twisting to an odd rhythm, her slender waist swaying like a floating lotus, fully displaying the enchanting qualities of a young woman. Only Suarya blushed, influenced by the dance, finding it obscene, yet irresistibly appealing, showcasing a woman's charms to their fullest. The others were unimpressed, with Li Pei even going so far as to loudly scoff, "So much for a holy maiden, her dance has form but lacks spirit, nowhere near Liao Ye." Indeed, Yun Qinglan's dance was seductive and charming, but it only stirred one's immediate desires, falling far short of Liao Ye in terms of artistic conception. Suarya was somewhat incredulous, wondering how her usually gentle and dignified, yet strict, master could ever perform such a wanton dance. Yun Qinglan, thinking her opponent was deliberately causing trouble, decided to give it her all, revealing the most exquisite aspects of herself to Liu Yao. Being renowned as the #1 beauty in the martial world, Yun Qinglan's figure certainly did not disappoint, creating an alluring scene. Doing so managed to break down the last of Duan's Hege's defenses. His face showed a thick veneer of infatuation, drool dribbling down from the corner of his mouth onto his chest as he chuckled stupidly. Without ceasing her dance, Yun Qinglan slinked over and whispered in his ear, "Elder Duan, it's time for a breakthrough. I am the sect master, and you need to reach the leakless realm to taste my charm." Duan's Hegi let out a roar and began to spur his true chi for a breakthrough on the spot. The onlookers watched with their eyes wide and focused spirit, seeing the elder of joyful sex aperture points scattering light like stars, opening and closing together. He naturally failed. These aperture points were like a chain of faulty pressure cookers, bursting apart one after another. This act of forcing a breakthrough was akin to rolling over a landmine field while lying down, making every possible error in the book, serving as a textbook example of what not to do. In an instant, Duan's Hege's innate body collapsed along with his genetic structure, his aperture points unraveling, leaving behind a shapeless lump of rotten flesh that bore no resemblance to its original form. Liu Yao and Yu Yanmei, being particularly close, meticulously recorded every millisecond of the process. This was a rare opportunity, with the prime innate martial artist stepping on every single landmine. Even Yu Yanmei found herself gaining new insights from familiar concepts, reaping considerable benefits. The other sisters gained much as well. Even Suaria blinked her eyes, her understanding of the human body's aperture points deepening. After a moment of contemplation with his eyes closed, a strong confidence surged in Liu Yao's heart. The leakless realm held no more secrets for him. Even his body was urging him on, eager to evolve and impatient for a breakthrough. Chapter 503. Liu Yao, taking advantage of his excellent state, decided to take the plunge and strive to break through to the leak-free realm in one go. Although the breakthrough was almost guaranteed, the horrific death of Duan's Hiti due to his collapsing gene chain caused the women to worry inevitably. They gathered around Liu Yao, reluctant to part with him. Liaoya bit her lip and said, "Junior brother, why don't you take a break? I can dance for you to get you into the best state." Liu Yao took a deep sniff of her and laughed, "Senior sister, you've already been a great help today. I am in the best state right now, don't worry." Li Pei and Liao Qi were about to say something, but were interrupted by Yu Yanmei. "Stop acting like little daughters, trust Liu Ziazi's judgment." The Moon Fairy's eyes, clear and sparkling like precious gemstones, were filled with trust. Advancing to the leak-free realm relies more on the accumulation of one's past experiences. Liu Yao has a solid foundation, having reached the world's pinnacle. There absolutely won't be a problem. Rather than fretting needlessly, you should encourage him more. The sisters nodded in agreement and began to cheer on their man. Even Suaria blushed and said in a soft voice, "Uncle Master, you can do it." Liu Yao patted the little girl's head with a hearty laugh and accepted all their support before turning and striding away. But unexpectedly, Li Pei suddenly chased after him, whispering in his ear, "Wait." Liu Yao's eyes immediately lit up, his spirits soaring even higher. "It's a deal then." Li Pei smiled and nodded. But once their man had left, a sly look crossed her face. It seemed like good things never come easy. Breaking through to the leak-free realm was no simple matter. It required control over all 720 aperture points throughout the body, opening and closing them all at once, like a myriad of stars twinkling in the sky. Accomplishing this feat meant that a martial artist's tempering and control of his body had reached its apex, a state which could be called the flesh realm. At that point, the martial artist's body becomes a realm of its own, with aperture points transforming into a sky full of stars, possessing unbelievable power. Yu Yanmei took nearly 2 months to complete her breakthrough. There was no way Liu Yao could do it faster. Days passed, and the sisters at home kept busy with their own affairs, living a fulfilling life. Aside from her own relentless training, Liaoya also devoted much energy to Suaria, teaching her meticulously and strictly, sticking to a daily regime of massages. With all kinds of external aids, the young girl progressed rapidly. At the moment, Liaoya withdrew her hands from the girl and said with some surprise, "You're ready to cleanse your spine now." Cleansing the spine was the last task in the marrow cleansing realm, after that was the blood exchange. And Suaria was only 14. With such rapid progress, it was very possible that she could go through blood exchange before the age of 15. Worried that her disciple's foundation might not be stable, Liaoya scrutinized her from head to toe to confirm there were no issues, then happily exclaimed, "Our area is a peerless genius. It's all thanks to the good teachings of Master and Uncle Master." The girl blushed, looking exceptionally endearing. Seeing this, even Liaoya couldn't resist teasing her, "You're also a peerless beauty. I wonder which lucky boy will benefit from that someday." Aria's face turned an even deeper shade of red, looking even more sweet and charming. "Master is the real beauty. That day, when you were dancing, I was so entranced that I forgot to breathe." "But Master, how come you dance even better than that holy maiden?" Liaoya's face stiffened. She couldn't very well admit that she was naturally adept in beguiling arts. Just as she was struggling to find words, thankfully, Li Pei returned. "Hey, teaching your disciple, I see." She had to return every day to personally use divine sense perception to check on Liu Yao's condition and ensure his safety before she could rest easy. Her return now was timely, as Suaria's attention had shifted, and she hurriedly stood up to offer a courteous bow, "Auntie Master. Aria is so well behaved." Li Pei watched her with a beaming smile, feeling especially happy as she clearly perceived the strong heartbeat and breath of her man, deepening the smile on her face. Liaoya asked, is there some good news? Of course, there is. Li Pei took Liaoya's hand and said. The news of my husband causing several 100 billion caddies of grain to fall from the sky has spread throughout the north and south of the river, causing grain prices to plummet. The previously hoarding wealthy clans have all suffered great losses and had their power significantly weakened, sparing me countless efforts. What's more unexpected is that another great eunuch by the Empress Dowager's side, Li Jinying, heard about this and actually took the initiative to come over and join us. That's really something, Liaoya said in surprise. Rumor has it that this person was highly trusted by the Empress Dowager and controlled the Imperial Palace's secret vault. Exactly, and he brought it all with him, including the complete Tathagata divine palm. I'll give my husband a nice surprise when he comes out of his retreat. Li Pei's face was alight with excitement. Though treasures like the gold in the secret vault barely mattered to her family, the complete scripture of a rare divine skill was indeed an unexpected delight. Moreover, Li Jinying was not a man of great wickedness. He had the upper hand during the previous longevity feast, yet he still advised kindly and in good spirit. With this in mind, he could certainly be useful. With joy upon joy coming her way, Li Pei became somewhat overexcited and, wrapping her arms around Liaoya's slender waist, she teased. I am quite bored in the palace, why not make you a noble consort and let us be merry together? We don't need that lecher Liu Yao. While speaking, she nuzzled vigorously into the most comfortable and soft part of Liaoya. Ah! Get off, Arya is still here. Liaoya struggled to fend off the embrace. Arya laughed, the disciple has matters to attend to, I'll take my leave. The young girl dashed away, leaving the two women squished against each other. While Liu Yao was in seclusion, Izumo was not idle either. Inside the Hiroshima naval shipyard, there was one particularly enormous dock. The perimeter was closely guarded by heavily armed military police, forbidding anyone from approaching. However, today a group of visitors had arrived, and the military police immediately snapped to attention and saluted upon seeing them. Most of the visitors were burly officers, but the one leading them was a short old man with a large beard. This was the Prime Minister of Izumo, Hirofumi Ito, and he was inspecting a massive battleship on the verge of completion. One of the officers, bowing and scraping beside him, introduced. The Yamato is the largest battleship ever constructed by our Navy, and is also the largest battleship in the history of naval warfare. The boiler and main engine are already installed, and it is expected to officially launch in 2 months. A world war had supremely elevated the concept of big ships and heavy guns. The calibers of the naval guns were increasing, and so was the displacement of the warships. The battleship being built by Izumo was about 260 meters long, completely covered in a thick layer of armor, though the positions for the naval guns were still vacant. Hirofumi Ito spoke solemnly, what about the naval guns and other mechanical equipment? The officer in charge of the construction quickly answered, they will be jointly manufactured by Einheit and Minis. We have already sent people to negotiate, and they are expected to arrive within a month. Large caliber naval guns required more advanced manufacturing techniques, which only a handful of nations possessed. Izumo had received a lot of technical support, but was still lacking in this area. However, countering the newly established Great Yi dynasty was a common interest among the great powers, so they likely wouldn't delay. Hirofumi Ito let out a small sigh of relief and said, this is a matter of great concern to the Emperor. Gentlemen, you must guard it as if it were more important than your own lives. Yes, sir. The crowd responded loudly and in unison. Chapter 504. Time flew, and over a month had passed. If not for the strong heartbeat of Liu Yao they could sense every day, the girls almost couldn't help themselves from rushing in to check on him. Yu Yanmei consoled everyone, breaking through the no-leak realm is just like this, waiting for an opportunity when you can control all the aperture points in one go, just like a sky full of shining stars. Trust in Liu Ziazi, he won't have any problems. Only then did the girl's expression slightly soften. But after they left, Yu Yanmei herself came to the outside of the quiet room where Liu Yao was closing up and sat down cross-legged to wait patiently. She devoted all her attention to her little man, constantly monitoring the changes within. This way, should anything happen, she could rush in to support him at a moment's notice. This had been Yu Yanmei's routine for the entire month. A woman who usually appears cold and aloof, once moved, her heart lake can turn into a blazing flame. While Liu Yao had been closed up for so long, various ghosts and spirits were also restless. The previous phenomenon of rice falling from the sky had caused a nationwide crash in grain prices, causing untold numbers to suffer heavy losses. Even though everyone knew opposing Liu Yao was extremely dangerous, cutting off someone's wealth is even worse than killing their parents, and seeing one's fortune drastically diminish forced them to risk the desperate move. Recently, in the streets around Jiangdu, it was often seen that people wailed ostentatiously with a pair of donkey ears, drawing attention as they passed through the market. If someone asked, they would claim, it's only after eating the imperial court's rice that they grew a pair of animal ears. As the public was astonished, all sorts of tabloids and local newspapers immediately followed up, reporting the incident widely. Thus around Jiangdu, a rumor spread the rice given by the empire was transformed by the demon Liu using witchcraft, and eating it would turn people into beasts. Jiangdu is an important hub on the Grand Canal, a north-south traffic nexus, and also a distribution center for official grain. Such despicable tactics were obviously aiming to slander the official grain. Li Pei immediately ordered a thorough investigation. The newly reformed Imperial Fist Legion, which had just been established, dispatched a company of military soldiers down the Grand Canal to the south. Looking across the whole world, Jiangdu was also one of the bustling cities that counted. Merchants gathered, shops stood in great numbers, all kinds of green pavilions could be described as a human paradise, and it was a place where countless heroes converged. However, today, all those countless heroes were following behind the prefectural governor of Jiangdu, waiting obediently at the Jiangdu port pier. This setup made it clear that they were awaiting a high-ranking figure, while the surrounding boatmen and laborers were indifferent, busying themselves with their livelihoods. Recently, official grain-carrying boats frequently traveled south, and the river traffic was much busier than usual, making for good business. The large welcoming crowd on the shore awaited patiently, with prefectural governor Yang Hao showing a rather unpleasant face. The crowd around him felt similarly, with some continuously cursing under their breath, "Who the hell is trying to frame us?" Before long, someone shouted, "They're here." A steamship billowing black smoke slowly approached, flying a red flag with a golden dragon, indicating it was an official vessel. As the steamship docked and dropped its anchor, first to disembark were 80 soldiers carrying Kar-98 rifles, all from the bone-tempering realm, belonging to the Auxiliary Army for Commoners. Following them were two 2.5-meter-tall mechas, stepping heavily off the ship, with 30 soldiers in battle armor trailing behind. This was the force of a full company, and after disembarking, they lined up on both sides of the road, leaving space for the last and most important figure to come down. The shore crowd craned their necks with anticipation, only to see a stunningly pretty young girl alight last. Her skin was fair and luminous, and she had the poise of a fresh flower showered with morning dew. It was none other than Su Immortal. At this moment, her beautiful melon seed face was covered in frost, evidently in a bad mood. Seeing the reports in the newspaper, she was infuriated that someone dared to defame her martial uncle with such despicable tactics. It just so happened that several elders were unwilling to be far from their martial uncle, so Liaoya took the initiative to handle the matter. This was also a good experience, and Liaoya agreed to let her take charge. The welcoming party on the shore saw a young girl descend, and showed no surprise, they had already received the news. Prefectural Governor Yang stepped forward and bowed deeply, his words tinged with urgency. "Su Immortal, this is a complete disaster. This matter has absolutely nothing to do with us in Jiangdu." The representatives of Jiangdu's powerful families and major sects hastily echoed, "We ask the Immortal to discern the truth." As soon as the incident occurred, everyone in Jiangdu was scared out of their wits. It had not been long since the story of a real lordswoman descending from the sky on a spiritual sparrowhawk to eradicate a household. The so-called rabbits don't eat the grass by their burrows, and they really hadn't done this. Su Immortal coldly said, "I will investigate this matter until the truth comes to light. The rest of you, disperse." Present were several Blood Exchange Realm individuals, but the young girl was quite blunt in her speech. Nobody felt anything amiss, and Prefectural Governor Yang even wore a sycophantic smile. "Then I will accompany the Immortal and the military soldiers to settle in the city." Su Immortal's lips curled slightly. "To the city? Then I'll trouble you for that." The mecha warriors of the Imperial Fist made their cumbersome way forward, clearing the path. Many citizens of Jiangdu were seeing this for the first time and stood by the road, marveling in amazement. But as the 2.5-meter-tall behemoths of steel thundered by close to them, they trembled with fear, retreating continuously. A certain man in the shadows stealthily appraised Su Immortal, initially merely noting the girl's extraordinary beauty and talent. But when he saw the oddly shaped lake sword on her back, his martial intuition and spirit refinement perception immediately sounded frenzied alarms. Everyone exclaimed in awe that this must be a formidable gift bestowed by a real lord. By now, the procession had entered Jiangdu and was making its way to the prefectural yamen. Suddenly, Su Immortal raised her hand, and the warriors of the Imperial Fist immediately halted in unison. Within a few seconds, 4 squads of soldiers, each led by 5 military soldiers clad in battle armor, sprinted off in 4 different directions. The rumbling commotion caused the surrounding citizens to scatter in panic, while Prefectural Governor Yang looked on in bafflement. Su Immortal, what is this about? Su Immortal answered, Prefectural Governor, rest assured, we came prepared. After a moment of reflection, Prefectural Governor Yang realized the young girl must have already received intelligence, using his welcome as a cover to command troops after entering the city. Fearing entanglement, he hastily said, I have 800 marksmen at my disposal, ready for the Immortal to command. Then please ensure the civilians around are dispersed to avoid accidental injury. Around. At this moment, they were just passing by the press office named Chuo Feng Monthly, which had published many sarcastic reports about Liu Yao not so long ago. With a wave of Su Immortal's hand, the remaining soldiers immediately surrounded the place, cocking their guns and loading them. A muffled voice came from one of the mechas, Su Immortal, old Zhu Beneng here will storm in through the front door. This man was none other than Zhu Beneng, the eldest of the Behigali trio. Because of his spirit refinement firmness, coupled with his solid foundation, he was able to command a mecha despite being in the marrow cleansing realm. He also served as a company commander. The newspaper office in front of them was a stand-alone 3-story building, decorated to resemble a foreign consulate in style, clearly no expense spared. Su Immortal's face bore none of the loveliness she had at home. She commanded coldly. The situation here is not simple, rashly entering might lead to casualties. Begin with a round of suppressive fire. The soldiers in battle armor and the mecha troops, upon receiving the order, immediately turned their .50 caliber machine guns and fire god cannons towards the building and pulled the trigger. Chapter 505. The magazine office usually writes about the love affairs of high-profile figures and strange tales from all over, with a humorous and accessible style. That's why it has a lot of subscribers. But today, it faced disaster as 10.50 caliber machine guns opened fire on it at the same time. The Imperial Fist military soldiers formed a fan shape around the 3-story building and pressed the triggers, firing simultaneously. Amidst the noise like jackhammers against a wall, bullets heated by the gun barrel formed fiery lines as they swept across ruthlessly. The small building was peppered with holes like a honeycomb, and the brick and stone walls were penetrated through 4 or 5 layers, with debris from various structures and furniture scattered everywhere. Faint screams could be heard, and some people tried to fight back with Thompson submachine guns from the windows. However, before they could even raise their guns, they were turned into a mess of gore and thrown back inside. Others jumped out of the windows, attempting to escape to nearby houses. But Zhu Beneng had been waiting just for this moment. As these people were still in mid-air, they were turned into red dumpling filling by the fire god cannon. Even Prefectural Governor Yang sensed that something was wrong at this point. Not only were there submachine guns, but there were also far too many martial artists. He had already seen 4 people killed with his own eyes, and this was a magazine office, not a martial arts school. His heart skipped a beat as he instantly realized that this magazine office was a stronghold, and it belonged to foreign forces. Because domestic powers would have no need for such troublesome secrecy. Only the Izumo would want to control the media. The subsequent events confirmed his suspicion. Cease fire! Cease fire, we surrender! A loud shout came from inside the magazine office. At a raise of Liao Qi's hand, the military soldiers immediately stopped firing. By now, the 3-story building was hardly recognizable, on the verge of collapse, with large chunks of bricks and stones falling off continuously. 5 disheveled people emerged with their hands raised. The one leading them wore trousers, leather shoes, and a suit vest with glasses, looking sophisticated as he shouted repeatedly. Don't shoot, don't shoot! Prefectural Governor Yang's secretary quickly said, that's the magazine office's editor-in-chief Lu Jiqi. As Lu Jiqi and his companions shouted and approached, a soldier stepped forward to apprehend them when they were about 20 paces away. But at that moment, one of the 5, a short man at the back, suddenly turned into a shadow and shot towards Su Immortal with incredible speed. Zhu Beneng, with his spirit refinement firmness, was the first to react. The fire god cannon fired midway to intercept with precision. But when the cannonball hit, it exploded a cloud of smoke on the spot and the intended target turned into a log of wood, with the real body already in front of Suo Immortal's face. Ninjutsu? An upper-level shinobi. Izumo understood the divine land, and vice versa. Someone immediately recognized this as Izumo ninjutsu. The shinobi was now within arm's reach, and in the next instant would capture Suo Immortal as a hostage. A twisted smile of triumph appeared on his face, thinking if the stronghold was gone, so be it, but if he could capture this young lady and force Liu Yao to comply. Unfortunately for him, his thoughts were cut short. A faster black shadow flashed out, streaking past the enemy with a flash of lightning, then nimbly flew back to Suo Immortal's back. The shinobi stood still before crumbling into pieces on the ground. Suo Immortal reproached, "Fran, you only took action at the last moment again, you must be doing it on purpose to scare me. Aren't you out here for experience? The more thrilling it is, the better," came the reply. Suo Immortal. After a mental conversation between the two, exclamations rose from all around them. "I heard that a true immortal bestowed a flying sword, and it's really true. Without even being there in person, it can kill a shinobi equivalent to someone in the innate realm." The soldiers had already taken the editor-in-chief Lu Jiqi and the others into custody, forcing them to kneel on the ground, while a few auxiliary troops searched inside the magazine office. Moving forward, Suo Immortal, with her brows furrowed and an icy expression, said, "Lu Jiqi. You collude with the Izumo people and persistently defame my uncle. What do you have to say for yourself today?" Pushing up his glasses, Lu Jiqi looked at the overly delicate young girl and retorted quite boldly, "This is our freedom of the press. You're attacking democracy." Suo Immortal threw a few newspapers onto him and angrily replied, "My uncle is a person like an immortal, how dare you slander him like this?" Lu Jiqi looked down and saw that it was all gossip news about Liu Yao that he had published himself. Not only did it fabricate the story about eating official grain and growing donkey ears, but it also speculated without basis that Liu Yao had a mind of the heavenly demon form, with 3 heads and 6 arms. It went even further to insinuate that Liu Yao was promiscuous and had an indecent affair with the current emperor's master. Lu Jiqi shook his head and sneered, "It's just gossip news. Does the immortal actually believe it, as if what I said was true?" He was slick with his words, and moreover, he was not afraid of death. Of course, there was also the fact that the girl was beautiful and young, and people always tend to judge by appearance. Suo Aria's face turned beet red, her chest heaving violently as if she were an about to explode balloon. Despite her current glory, Aria's childhood was far from beautiful. She endured hunger, cold, insults, laughter, and beatings, and her only kin met with a tragic fate. It was Liu Yao who had completely changed her life, leading to the current Suo Immortal. Aria would never allow anyone to slander the most important person in her life. Just as the young girl was brimming with rage, the distinctive noise of a mecha approached. The Imperial Fist squads assigned to different areas had returned, each escorting quite a few captives. Prefectural Governor Yang looked around but did not recognize a single one, puzzled. The military staff hastened to explain, "They're all inconsequential factions from the martial world, usually known for breaking children's legs to force them into begging. We don't know what got into them this time." Prefectural Governor Yang's expression darkened. So these were the scoundrels behind all this. But they shouldn't have the guts to do such a thing, should they? Those capable of such deeds should belong to the great families and giants of the martial path. There must be someone behind the scenes. At this moment, the squad captains began to report. According to intelligence provided by the Joyful Sect, all targets have been captured, none escaped. We have no casualties. The captives were all faction members, totaling over 100. They wore expressions of fear and exhaustion, and they were the ones who had orchestrated the farce of growing donkey ears from eating official grain. Thinking of her mentor, an immortal-like figure who kindly brought grain only to be slandered by these scoundrels, Aria felt overwhelming hatred stirring within her. Her beautiful face frosty, she inquired, "Who here knows the person behind the scenes?" Despite her anger, the young girl's beauty and sweet voice significantly lessened the oppressive atmosphere. The faction members, irritated, started to shout and argue. "Don't know, not clear. Pretty girl, our offenses aren't punishable by death, are they? Why make such a big fuss?" They had barely started screaming before they were kicked to the ground by military soldiers, their hands bound behind their backs as they knelt, still muttering incessantly. In their eyes, their deeds were at most worth a few dozen lashes or exile at the worst, nothing serious. But suddenly, Suo Aria reined in her anger and said indifferently, Your crimes constitute great disrespect, and according to law, your entire household shall be executed. Now, you will be executed on the spot as a warning to others. The prefectural yamen will handle the confiscation of your properties. Prefectural Governor Yang, please take care of it. Prefectural Governor Yang was startled, finding the punishment a bit too severe, but he quickly responded. For such scum to come from Jiangdu, I am also deeply embarrassed. I will investigate and confiscate the criminals' estates immediately. Having said that, he made a meaningful gesture, and the marksman's captain personally went to handle the task. Upon hearing this, the faction leaders at the scene instantly caused an uproar, struggling and cursing, but were firmly held down by the military soldiers, immobile. In the midst of the chaos, Suarya drew the M500 revolver given to her by Liao Qi from her waist. Approaching the first man, who was still oblivious and cursing loudly. The young girl, calm, aimed the gun at the back of his head and pulled the trigger without hesitation. With a loud bang, half of the man's head was blown off, splattering brain and blood onto those nearby. The scene went silent in an instant, even a few military soldiers looked on in shock at the strikingly beautiful girl, pure as a dew-kissed flower. Lu Jiqi, previously so slick, was utterly stupefied, unable to believe that the young girl had personally executed a man. But disbelief was no longer an option, for Suarya had already moved to the second person, and without a word, she fired again, blood and flesh scattering in all directions. Another person died on the spot. This time everyone witnessed it clearly, and even the bystanders instinctively cried out in alarm. The sight of such a breathtakingly beautiful girl executing people herself was a stark and shocking contrast. Chapter 506. The M500 revolver fired .50 caliber bullets that could take down a rhinoceros with a single shot, creating an extremely bloody scene when used on people. The soldiers of Imperial Fist dragged a line of kneeling prisoners into a row, where Suarya executed them one by one with her gun. With each thunderous shot, a person's head was blown apart, and their body collapsed to the ground. All the prisoners shuddered, and the onlooking crowd recoiled in fear. The M500 revolver used large .50 caliber bullets with tremendous stopping power, and it only held 5 rounds. 5 gunshots rang out in succession, emptying the chamber. Suarya elegantly flicked her wrist, ejecting the large spent casings with a clinking sound. The young girl calmly reloaded the cylinder, the subtle clicking noise sounding particularly grating. The prisoners were terrified, desperately struggling, but a punch to the kidney from the soldiers' steel fists left them curled up in pain like shrimps. Some pleaded pitifully, "It's not this servant's fault. It has nothing to do with me." Others cried out, "It was just spreading rumors, our crimes do not deserve death." Arya turned a deaf ear to them, and after reloading, she continued the executions. 10 headless bodies fell to the ground, and the air was already filled with a pungent stench of blood. As people watched their companions being shot one after another, they were all in utter terror. Suddenly, someone remembered that the young girl had asked a question earlier, about the mastermind. However, the mastermind was clearly very cautious, and those present only vaguely realized someone had arranged for them to spread the rumors, but they knew nothing specific. Before long, another 5 rounds had been fired. Zhu Beneng's 2 brothers were very sharp-eyed and brought over a paper box of bullets to help. Arya nodded her thanks, reloaded, and continued. This time the one under the barrel was a middle-ranking member of a gang, with grey hair and criminal tattoos on his face. Seeing a line of corpses beside him and now it was his turn, his face turned pale. He frantically yelled at another kneeling prisoner. The job was taken by the second in command. "It's him. He must know." Before he could finish his sentence, his head was blown off with a shot, and he fell to the ground with a gaping hole in his forehead. Suarya remained expressionless, as if uninterested in the intelligence. She moved on to the next person and, amid his pleading and sobbing, she raised her gun and fired, then continued to the next, repeating the process. She quickly reached the second in command, who was shaking like a leaf, and he quickly said, "I confess, it was someone from the Zhuhua sect." It really was the Zhuhua sect. Yet before he could finish, his head, too, was blown apart. With him included, there were now 20 bodies with shattered skulls on the ground, the pungent stench of blood mingling with foul odors. As it turned out, someone had wet themselves. The execution ground was in complete chaos. The stunning beauty was unyielding and shot each one upon approach. Witnessing their companions dying one after another right in front of them, and realizing they would be next, no one could bear the pressure of death slowly approaching. They used every method they could think of to survive, some begging for mercy and others loudly divulging everything they knew. The contact was very cautious. We were just clever enough to track him. He's visited the trade associations controlled by the Zhuhua sect several times, there must be a connection. The Zhuhua sect lost their shirts stockpiling grain and have to destroy tens of thousands of acres of opium poppy fields. They hate the imperial court to the bone. We truly didn't know that spreading rumors was a serious crime. Please, have mercy. Without the need for intense interrogation, they all babbled, spilling everything just to save their own lives. Suaria, her face void of emotion, maintained a rhythm of firing every 5 seconds and coldly said, "You dared tarnish the reputation of my uncle Immortal, a divine being. You commit a grave offense against respect, hereby executed on the spot." The young girl was determined to personally execute these people, and it didn't take long until only the 4 members of Lu Jiqi from the news agency remained. These 4 were already trembling like quails, their bodies shuddering with each thunderous shot. This fairy-like stunning girl was essentially a killing god. No matter the status of the condemned, or the value of their words, she simply blasted their head off with a single shot. So far, no one had survived. The corner of one's eye catching a chain of headless corpses toppling to the ground, those demons drew closer and closer, and the group began to unravel. First, 3 editors from the newspapers knelt on the ground, frantically shouting. It was Lu Jiqi who took money from the Izumo Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and he was speaking for the Izumo people both openly and covertly. When he compiled the news, he deliberately belittled our people and promoted the Izumo people, and he maliciously stirred up division among our people. Recently, our task was to vilify the imperial court and Lord Lu. It's hard to imagine that over 100 years ago, Izumo had already been controlling public opinion. Zhu Benneng was constantly activating the spirit-refining state to determine the veracity of what the condemned said, and he had a comprehensive grasp of the situation. It was clear that the major faction from Wan State, Zhuhua sect, had been secretly stirring trouble, indoctrinating these small Jiangdu factions that were dissatisfied with the imperial court. And Lu Jiqi, having defected to Izumo and seeing an opportunity, naturally added fuel to the fire. In this way, as things became crystal clear, all the criminals were executed, and he and his colleagues could return to the capital to report. But the follow-up developments brought Zhu Benneng an unexpected delight. At that moment, Su Immortal had already finished off those 3 newspaper editors. Now she was behind Lu Jiqi, reloading her gun chamber, bullet by bullet. Lu Jiqi's ears were ringing from the gunshots, his face and even his mouth splattered with warm and bloody tofu-like brains. From the corner of his eye, he could see colleagues without their skullcaps, their eyeballs fallen out of their sockets. He gasped for air, sweating profusely, when suddenly from behind him came a click of metal bullets were loaded. "Wait a minute! Wait a minute!" Lu Jiqi completely collapsed, crying out with tears streaming. "I know of over a dozen newspapers controlled by Izumo people. I also know high-ranking officials bribed by Izumo people. I have a lot of intelligence." At these words, the surrounding crowd burst into an uproar, and the eyes of the Imperial Fist military soldiers lit up. There was an additional gain. It was widely rumored in the military Lord Lu was about to take action against Izumo. To make such an achievement at this time was excellent. Zhu Benneng quickly stepped forward and said, "Immortal, please calm down. Let us take care of the rest." Then, lifting his faceplate, he said sincerely, "According to this man's words, a major case could be cracked, and Lord Lu will be very pleased." Su Immortal thought for a moment and then sheathed her gun at her waist, "Take him down and torture him severely." A group of military soldiers jubilantly dragged Lu Jiqi away, feeling that Su Immortal's actions were very efficient. If it were up to interrogation, who knows how long it would have taken to get this information. They held Lu Yao in awe and gratitude, and were eager for a chance to be enlightened and rapidly advance, their bodies filled with vigor. Their spirited demeanor made the prefectural governor's standard-bearers nearby somewhat envious, but joining the legion required multiple layers of review, which was not an easy task. Meanwhile, the onlooking crowd was still marveling at the drama they had witnessed. Prefectural Governor Yang whispered to his confidants, "The condemned have damaged the court's prestige with despicable means, and it is good to follow their example in this way." No matter what people thought inwardly, at that moment, they all agreed repeatedly. Several figures with faces full of shock ran outward, in a hurry to report today's events to their respective powers. From then on, Su Immortal became famous in one battle. Strictly speaking, she was only 13 years old, with well over half a year until her 14th birthday. And it was this immaculate young girl, who executed 100 people without changing her expression. Even though these people deserved their punishment, Prefectural Governor Yang quickly fabricated charges to define this incident, but so Immortal still earned the nickname Azura Fairy. The meaning was self-evident, such ruthlessness made all kinds of evil spirits lie low, no longer daring to cause trouble. The townspeople exclaimed in astonishment, the women around Lord Lu are truly formidable, and even his disciple niece is no exception. Amid the chaos, Lu Yao finally emerged from seclusion. Chapter 507. The common saying goes, a small boat turns swiftly. Sometimes, when the foundation is excessively robust, a breakthrough brings greater benefits, but the process becomes much more arduous. Lu Yao ate 10 complete immortal pills daily, received massages from 4 beauties who spared no true qi, and even more, he was personally coached by Yu Yanmei, an 18-year-old genius who had become a grandmaster. Not to mention Li Pei's orchid fragrance, which he could smell anytime, an extraordinary woman of such caliber in the history of Divine Land could be counted on one hand. Plus, the especially potent plutonium-239, the simultaneous practice of 3 different cultivation techniques, and so on and so forth. Lu Yao's cheating allowed him to fly in terms of progress, forging an exceptionally robust foundation, so much so that it took 2 months of seclusion to finally break through. On March 8, Yu Yanmei, who had always been guarding outside the quiet room, suddenly felt a movement in her heart. She suddenly sensed a surging life force within the room, followed by a torrent of true qi violently swelling, shaking the quiet room to its core. Knowing that her little man had reached the critical moment, Yu Yanmei stood up, stared intently at the quiet room, her fists clenched tightly. The surging life force grew even stronger, like the warm sun in winter. Even separated by a wall, Yu Yanmei felt as if she were basking in the spring breeze. But inside, she was becoming increasingly anxious, unsure if her little man had succeeded or not. Then, in less than a second, a massive amount of true qi suddenly exploded out, driving the air into a roar, shattering the quiet room's door and walls all at once. Bricks scattered and dust flew everywhere. Through the haze, a silhouette slowly emerged. It was Lu Yao. Why didn't you tell me there would be such a commotion when breaking through? He walked out with a smile, bearing a neat row of white teeth, his clothes destroyed by the rampaging true qi, his body fully exposed. With a chest broad like a fan, broad shoulders, a slim waist, and long proportionate legs. The muscles had a natural, flowing beauty, tempting to the touch. But the most striking thing at the moment was the fiery wave of qi rippling across his body, scraping the ground clean. This was the rampaging surge of true qi formed, which was 20 or 30 times the quantity of the innate realm, indicating that Lu Yao had successfully ascended to the Jin realm but was yet to fully grasp control. Your foundation is too robust. After your breakthrough, your strength has surged, and you can't control it freely for the time being. Yu Yanmei explained while she took off her own clothes to demonstrate for her little man. The belly band was too troublesome to undo, she simply tore it off to reveal her flawless, extraordinarily radiant body reminiscent of a lunar goddess. The 720 aperture points around the body are like valves and switches, the true qi becomes like the torrents that Yu the Great once subdued. Yu Yanmei actively placed Lu Yao's hand on her body as all the aperture points vibrated and opened and closed, twinkling like the stars in the sky, the true qi behaving obediently and softly. This direct lesson made it instantly understandable. Lu Yao tried the same thing, and his surging true qi indeed became much gentler. He looked up and said with a smile, "This is really effective. Speaking of which, why aren't you wearing the underwear I gave you?" Yu Yanmei smiled radiantly, as if 100 flowers were blossoming. "I'm not used to it. I'll just keep wearing my usual ones." Lu Ziazi, congratulations. I also have to thank you for looking after me for 2 months. Feeling you were outside made me a lot more at ease. It's nothing, I was also taking the opportunity to ponder the subtleties of fetal breath myself. The two chatted softly for a while, then, as if by telepathy, they hugged each other tightly at the same time, as if trying to fuse into one another, pouring out boundless joy from their hearts. At this moment, the rest of the girls at home heard the commotion and rushed over with their swift movements. Everyone's faces were brimming with uncontainable joy. Liao Qi was the first to leap onto Lu Yao, screaming, "You made it!" Liao Ye's eyes shone brightly with emotion, her voice trembling a bit. "Congratulations to junior brother for ascending to the Jin realm without flaws." Lady Xiao also wanted to step forward and offer her congratulations, but seeing Lu Yao in such an indecent state, she refrained from approaching. Looking at the lively group of youngsters, she figured it was better not to disturb them. She turned around with a smile to go back to her room, but accidentally caught sight of Yu Yanmei getting dressed and was instantly startled. Their relationship isn't ordinary, it seems. The rumors mustn't be unfounded. At this moment, Suaria also excitedly stepped forward to congratulate. Seeing that Liu Yao wasn't wearing any clothes, her face instantly turned bright red, and she shyly lowered her head, daring not to look again, yet she couldn't help stealing a few glances. It took quite a bit of courage for her to speak, and she could only say half a sentence, "Congratulations, Uncle Master," before she was shoved aside by 3 spiritual sparrowhawks that missed their owner greatly and cuddled around him non-stop with their necks. Arya pouted unhappily, appearing so endearing that she hardly resembled the Azura fairy who was feared at the mere mention of her name. With so many people coming over, the quiet cultivation quiet room became extremely lively. After everyone made a fuss for a while, Liu Yao finally said, "First, find me some clothes and then get more food, I am so hungry." Only then did everyone realize that Liu Yao was still unclothed. The Liao family sisters and Suaria quickly prepared a rich feast. Liao Qi was seen holding a copper basin, gathering true qi in just a few breaths, heating the soup base in the basin until it began to roll and boil. Arya added lamb rolls and tofu among other items to hot pot. Liaoya was roasting a whole pig on the side, using her true qi to cook it to perfection, the aroma wafting through the air. True qi was incredibly precious, and others, who didn't even have enough for their own cultivation, could only dream of such luxury to cook with, which only the Liu family could afford. Grabbing his chopsticks, he devoured the food like a whirlwind, and within moments he seemed to have ingested 100 pounds of food. Then he picked up a large bowl of the golden elixir brew that Liaoya had just brewed, gulped it down in one breath, and finally let out a contented sigh. Revived. This brew is really delicious. And it's chilly. I placed a piece of ice jade into it while brewing, glad it turned out well. Liaoya smiled elegantly, filling her junior brother's cup again. With the addition of ice jade, the strength of the golden elixir brew could even affect those in the no-leak realm. Liu Yao slowly sipped and shared, "This breakthrough, my biggest realization is that the more you know, the more reverence you have. The human body is truly amazing, no other creation in the world comes close to 1/10,000th of its intricacy." Flesh realm combined with inner vision gave Liu Yao the ability of crafting the subtle and mysterious, allowing him to see the tiniest parts of his body as if he was observing them under a microscope. This also increased his awe for the miraculous construction of the human body, with 720 aperture points throughout the body American Samoa if they were inherently meant for cultivation. The human body is like a machine that operates on the lowest power consumption after being stripped of all privileges. And cultivation is like gradually reactivating these privileges one by one. Liu Yao suddenly had this epiphany. He used to think that Blue Star's technology was advanced, but now he realized that many of mankind's proudest technologies were not even on par with wild animals, and an aircraft carrier wasn't even as exquisite as a finger. Liaoya laughed and said, "Not bad, junior brother, you have finally developed a sense of reverence for cultivation. You used to be too carefree. I indeed was a bit too arrogant." Liu Yao laughed as well, and then said, "Right, using sea pressure for cultivation is crucial. This breakthrough was greatly aided by it, and you all should give it a try. Enduring the pressure at the sea bottom isn't just excellent extreme training, the body will also instinctively use the aperture points to breathe, absorbing oxygen from the water, which is absolutely beneficial for cultivation. In the other world's ocean live gargantuan sea monsters, but Liu Yao had thought of a way to deal with them. He was about to share it when Li Pei hurried back. "Congratulations to my lord, felicitations to my lord." She was also bubbling with joy, revealing 2 rows of pearly white teeth with her smile. She then began to report on her duties. "The state of affairs in the nation is smooth, and all matters are progressing in an orderly fashion. Following your instructions, the Imperial Fist was the first to complete reorganization. Are you planning to use troops against Izumo? We'll first take down Goryeo, which has been occupied by Izumo, to train the troops and cut off their possibility for land reinforcements." Chapter 508. Liu Yao, with a thoughtful expression, slowly said, "Using battle armor and mecha to fight head-on, with ordinary people in the rear coordinating, whether this strategy is actually effective can only be tested in real combat. Maintenance, ensuring logistics, and other aspects all need to be tested, and Goryeo is an excellent proving ground with just the right level of intensity." Li Pei was well informed about the situation in Goryeo, she spoke fluently. Izumo brutally exploits Goryeo to the bone, treating their troops almost like beasts. However, because of this, many Goryeans have taken the initiative to provide us with information. Izumo has 2 divisions totaling 60,000 troops stationed there, plus about 100,000 Imperial auxiliary forces. In terms of high-end combat power, there are 2 division commanders at the No-Leak realm, and at least 4 others at the innate. Liu Yao sipped his fine wine and said, "Send the entire reorganized Imperial Fist Legion over there, give them a good workout." Liu Yao certainly didn't want to play nanny, this was going to be a real test of combat readiness. Furthermore, tens of thousands, millions of people can be driven by a combination of grace and might. How to mobilize an entire nation of hundreds of millions will also be answered through this war. Li Pei nodded seriously, "Then your consort shall issue the mobilization order for combat." Slumped in his chair, Liu Yao tapped lightly on the backrest with his index finger, displaying the attitude of a hands-off boss. "Do it well, and don't neglect other affairs, like building railways, highways, schools, and armament factories." After rattling off a long list, Li Pei glanced over at him sideways, "Your consort sure is getting worn out being the emperor." Liao Qi joked from the side, "You are the big milk cow used to command the world, moo moo." Li Pei, annoyed, came over to tear at her mouth. The latter struggled and resisted, with the two causing a commotion. At that moment, Liu Yao stepped forward with a sweeping gesture, enveloping them. Would the 3 heroines mind helping this young master test the strength of the flesh realm? Liao Ya hesitated, "Shouldn't you consolidate your realm first?" Li Pei giggled, showing off just after breaking through. Liu Yao's true chi surged outwards, forming an imposing aura. "You 3 have ganged up on me many times, I just can't wait for revenge." A few hours later, it was noon. Liu Yao was the only sober person in the scene, having won a 1vs3 fight. With 3 sisters of the innate realm as a reference, he had a good measure of the physical prowess in the no-leak realm. The strength and defense have no qualitative difference. However, the quality and quantity of true chi are far superior. His original 11-ton force, after the breakthrough, was around 13 tons, expected to grow to 15 tons. The biggest difference between the 2 realms lay in true chi. The innate realm is like a household tap, with true chi used only in critical moments. The no-leak realm, however, is like a hydrant, with every move enveloped in the might of true chi. In the recent battle, Liu Yao had indeed won by leveraging his true chi. Raging torrents washed over, and his opponents felt as if they had swallowed a red-hot iron tongs, scalding them into a series of miserable cries, their bodies unresponsive. This kind of life energy could turn metal red-hot and make a person extremely excited and sensitive. Even the most defiant Li Pei had lost consciousness, limp and unresponsive to prods, thoroughly defeated. In doing so, Liu Yao had his perfect revenge while also testing his new realm, killing several birds with one stone. With a splash, he got up and left. Li Pei, sensing something, twitched slightly before slowly coming to with the help of her formidable will. Watching her struggle to get up, Liu Yao said, "Won't you rest a little longer?" Li Pei rolled her charming eyes at him, "As if I have the leisure like you, Master Liu. War is upon us, and there are many things I need to manage. There's no time for rest." She quickly dressed, while speaking, "Later, I still have to meet with Du Wenlin of the Jiangnan Manufacturing Bureau to discuss the matter of manufacturing our own ammunition." Once the war began, the ammunition consumption for battle armor and mecha would reach astronomical figures, and it was essential to be self-sufficient. Li Pei had already considered this. Du Wenlin? It's been a while since I've seen him. Back then, I gave him the technique for refining steel and the method for casting cannons, so there shouldn't be much of a problem technically. Liu Yao felt it was fate that he had used advanced techniques to network with officials, never imagining it would ultimately be to his own benefit. He bent down to help Li Pei with her shoes and stockings, softly saying, "Don't overdo it. If there's anything you can't handle, just tell me directly. You still need to focus on your cultivation." Li Pei, enjoying her husband's attentiveness, felt sweet inside, but the sweetness lasted no more than 3 seconds. Glancing stealthily at the still dozing Liao family sisters, Liu Yao whispered, "You said before after I break through, I would seek out Grandmaster Yu." At hearing this, Li Pei lifted her snowy feet and kicked him, her seductive phoenix eyes full of disdain. "While I'm busy to the point of neglecting sleep and meals, all you can think about is that." Liu Yao touched his nose, showing an expression of a pig not fearing scalding water. Li Pei smirked slyly, "All right, I promised, but you'll have to speak with my master yourself. Liu Yao's face changed. Ah! If he dared to make such a request to the cold moon fairy, he would definitely be riddled with holes. Watching her husband get deflated, Li Pei hummed a tune and prettily arranged her hair in front of the mirror. I brought back a secret manual to Liao Ye's place. Oh right, you don't know yet, her apprentice has made quite a name for herself. Liu Yao, Liao Qi. Just look at the newspaper and you'll know. Li Pei leaned in for a kiss, then she left. It was a fine day, and Liu Yao went to the pavilion, stabilizing and adapting to his realm while sunbathing and reading the newspaper. The Western powers were still holding the Alito Peace Conference. It was a marathon-like debating contest for competing interests, filled with deception and political intrigue. Two countries might be competitors one second, and the next they would join forces to undercut another. Since January, it had been more than 2 months of bickering over issues like whether to divide jihad and the distribution of war reparations, with none of the countries willing to give in. The conference on the Blue Star side apparently lasted over 5 months. Liu Yao was unsurprised, division of spoils among thieves was always this way. But then he noticed something off. This time around, amidst the argy-bargy of the conference, one agenda item was quickly passed that was to completely blockade Rakshasa. The Western powers deployed heavy troops along the line from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, thoroughly isolating Rakshasa. Yet compared to military precautions, this move looked more like the formation of a quarantine belt. Liu Yao was puzzled. Rakshasa hasn't turned red, right? What's happening there? Seems like we need to establish our own intelligence department, to avoid being completely in the dark. Previously, the Shun dynasty had no intelligence agencies, just personal sitting detectives without any systematic structure and extremely inefficient. Noting this, he decided to arrange for Li Pei to handle it later, and finally, Liu Yao found news about the Azura Fairy. At that moment, Liao Qi came over with tea and snacks. The young girl had skin as clear as crystal, soft and beautiful as jade, and was exceptionally well behaved. Chapter 509. Uncle Master, please enjoy the tea. Arya laid out the tea, fruits and melons on the stone table, the fragrance wafting through the air, clearly meticulously prepared. Liu Yao stared at her with an odd expression, sizing up the girl. Petite and delicate, eliciting compassion at a glance, she hardly resembled the Azura Fairy. Arya seemed to sense something and glanced up at the newspaper in Liu Yao's hand, then lowered her head in bashful embarrassment and said, "Those bad people slandered Uncle Master, that's why I..." Then, she grew a bit worried, "Uncle Master, are you blaming me?" Liu Yao immediately smiled and said, "How could I? In one fell swoop, you've exposed over a dozen newspapers infiltrated by Izumo. You've done a great service." With that, Arya breathed a sigh of relief and beamed at Liu Yao, as bright as a lotus flower after morning dew. Caught off guard by her smile, Liu Yao felt dazed, as though the ugly duckling had unknowingly transformed into a beautiful swan. He cleared his throat and continued, "We practice martial arts so we don't have to suffer indignities. Those you've killed got what they deserved. Don't hesitate with such people in the future, just strike as needed." As he spoke, he instinctively reached out to pat Arya's head as he used to do. But when he stretched out his hand, he realized she was now 1.7 meters tall, a tall and slender young lady, and not so easy to reach. Arya promptly and obligingly squatted down to make it easier for Liu Yao. "The women martial artists sure are tall," he mused, then using the bodily contact as an opportunity, he activated his inner vision to check on how the girl was progressing with her cultivation. "You've cleansed your spine already? That's fast. Good. A solid foundation." After offering praise, Liu Yao reminded her, while progressing swiftly on the martial path, "You must not neglect spirit refinement. It's like a person's 2 legs, one short and one long just won't do." Arya nodded repeatedly, "Disciple understands." Then, with a chuckle, Liu Yao shared an anecdote to reinforce the point. In ancient times, those who practiced martial arts but not spirit refinement were disdainfully called strongmen and could only work as laborers. Arya thought Uncle Master smiled beautifully, his lively eyebrows arching towards his temples, adding to his charm. His English accent also carried a gentleness, making one feel at ease, devoid of the roughness common among men. As she watched, she became entranced, and it was only after some time that she suddenly heard her Uncle Master calling for her. "Arya, you must remember well what I just said. Right, do you have any difficulties with your cultivation?" Arya quickly snapped back to reality and said, "Disciple is cleansing the spine up to the Mingmen A cup ointment and feels quite anxious, afraid of making any mistakes. The Mingmen A cup ointment is located at the lower back, and by its name one can tell it's a vital spot, one can never be too careful there." This seemed simple. Liu Yao immediately said, "I can help you by using massage therapy." He caught himself mid-sentence, realizing that Arya was no longer a child and he should avoid impropriety. But then, Liu Yao glanced towards the bedroom. Liao Ya probably wouldn't wake up until tomorrow. The girl was eagerly waiting, and Liu Yao thought helping a disciple through difficulties in cultivation was the natural duty of a master. So he simply said, "I can help you by using massage therapy." Arya's eyes sparkled as she skillfully sat down in front of her uncle master, expectantly taking off her outer robe. Looking at the young girl's delicate curves, Liu Yao shook his head and mused, "You're a grown lady now, we'll really have to be careful in the future." He then focused his energy, all distractions fading away, his index finger precisely targeting the Mingmen A cup ointment on Arya's lower back. A vast surge of innate true qi billowed out, transforming into more than a dozen strands of true qi threads at his command. Arya immediately felt as if she had dipped into a warm spring, all over her body relaxed and comfortable. The second and third lumbar vertebrae, near the Mingmen A cup ointment, were gently and swiftly cleansed by the multiple strands of true qi threads. A bottleneck that would normally take a year or more to overcome required only a few breaths before Liu Yao. Having seen much in her travels, Arya was aware of how rare and generous her current treatment was. She respectfully saluted Liu Yao, "Many thanks, Uncle Master. No need for formalities. When you cleanse by yourself in the future, be as gentle and patient as if you were handling your own eyeballs." Arya listened intently to her Uncle Master's advice, wishing time would slow down to prolong their time together. Just then, 3 spiritual sparrowhawks swooped down from the sky, squawking oddly as they jostled for attention, instantly disrupting the mood. They clamped Liu Yao's hand with their beaks and placed it on their bodies, signaling their owner to massage them. At the same time, they swept their tail feathers at Arya, deliberately shooing her away. The scene was chaotic, and Liu Yao said, "Second miss, go cultivate on your own, I'll deal with them first." Disciple retreats. With a cold face and pursed lips, Second Miss went to the mountains and threw a fierce series of punches, nearly snapping a crooked-necked tree at the waist. Damn those flat-haired beasts! The rare opportunity for companionship was disrupted, and the young girl was quite angry. After venting, she suddenly noticed a car arriving at the foot of the mountain. After the car stopped, a man and a woman got out and waited respectfully at the gate of the mountain. The man had a long braid trailing down his back, and the woman had a full head of little braids, a style typical of the ethnic minorities from beyond the Great Wall. This was the first time Second Miss had seen such attire, and she approached with curiosity. When the two saw the girl approaching, they hurriedly performed a formal greeting. Na Wei and Tong Jie, pay their respects to Suo Immortal. These two were none other than the mountain patrollers who had sold the spiritual sparrowhawk to Liu Yao earlier. The voice of her uncle master reached Second Miss's ears, "These two are my old acquaintances, bring them up." Therefore, the young girl lifted her hand and gestured, "The true monarch invites you, please follow me." The two were pleasantly surprised and hurried to follow Second Miss up the mountain. The mountain path was rugged, and Tong Jie, supporting Na Wei's arm, did not move very quickly. Second Miss looked back and realized that the man was blind. The group soon met. Liu Yao gazed at the two familiar faces, feeling the irony of fate. These two, once rivals, had had grievances against each other, with Tong Jie even purchasing firearms from Liu Yao to use against Na Wei. But now, with their intimate behavior, it was clear they had become husband and wife, and the once fierce-looking Na Wei was now blind. Na Wei and Tong Jie were even more astonished by the achievements Liu Yao had made, bowing respectfully, "Greetings, true monarch." Liu Yao released a stream of true qi to help them stand up. "No need for such formalities, what happened to your eyes?" Na Wei replied with a calm demeanor, "Blinded by the poison gas of the Izumo people." Tong Jie added, "To report to the true monarch, the Izumo troops stationed in Goryeo have repeatedly crossed the border to plunder. We couldn't stand by and fought them several times. Our visit here is to report the Izumo have reinforced their troops in Goryeo, clearly planning a large-scale invasion." Liu Yao said, "Thank you both for your concern. Coincidentally, the Imperial Court also plans to take military action against Goryeo soon to eliminate Izumo's influence. Such an event The two were delighted, but then Na Wei said gravely. True monarch, I know you are powerful, but do not underestimate the Izumo people. They've set up a place within the Goryeo territory dedicated to researching poison gas, conducting horrendous experiments on living people. Even I, at the marrow cleansing realm, was blinded by the gas. Liu Yao felt somewhat relieved, as both battle armor and mechas were equipped with protective features. He then declared firmly. Rest assured, these beasts will be annihilated this time. The two sighed in relief, with Tongjia beginning to recount the deeds the Izumo people had done in Goryeo. Looting and raping, comfort women, killing competitions, and so on. Finally, Na Wei interrupted, stop, to avoid sullying the ears of the true monarch and so immortal. Liu Yao's expression was inscrutable, it's fine, I know almost everything. Na Wei sighed, it's good that you know. Their army is simply bestial. But there's something I'm not sure of, it seems someone claiming to be a descendant of the great Khan of the Jin Empire has defected to Izumo, intending to establish a regime beyond the Great Wall. Chapter 510. The mighty Jin country at the end of the Ming dynasty collapsed swiftly after the assassination of its Khan, leaving but an insignificant mark in the annals of history. But after all, it once expanded its influence among the sparse population beyond the Great Wall, managing to deceive quite a number of simple-minded folks. Na Wei sighed, my lord, the region beyond the Great Wall has suffered the passage of powerful foreign armies twice, resulting in utter chaos. It is very possible some may take desperate measures that we must guard against. Tongjia also said, the Izumo people are nothing but beasts. Taking refuge with them is sheer madness. Liu Yao didn't take these clowns seriously and stated decisively, don't worry, I will handle it myself. With that assurance from the true lord, Na Wei and his spouse breathed a sigh of relief. Subsequently, Liu Yao asked with a smile, how have you been these past years? I didn't expect you to be married. Tongjia answered, I am from the Goryeo ethnic group in the Yanbian area. When the Izumo in Goryeo forcibly conscripted comfort women, some of my kin crossed the border seeking refuge. I took them in. Unexpectedly, an expert from Izumo came pursuing them, and what was even more unexpected was, this fellow who always clashed with me actually came to my aid. I was the cause of him losing his sight, so I felt obliged to marry him as compensation. Na Wei laughed, they wouldn't even spare little girls aged 7 or 8, I just couldn't stand by and watch. At this moment, the two who were once enemies were now holding hands all along, their affection for each other surely deep. Liu Yao once again marveled at the world's unpredictability. Just then, 3 spiritual sparrowhawks flew by at a low altitude. Tongjia looked up with an enchanted gaze, they've reached core formation? They are so beautiful. Liu Yao chuckled, I should thank you for the falcon egg you provided back then, as well as the falconry techniques. Na Wei, who was blind, just listened intently, sensing through the vibrations in the air the formidable size of the spiritual sparrowhawks, equally astonished. Both our families have been mountain patrollers for generations, selling spiritual beasts from the old forests, yet no one has been able to cultivate a golden core great demon like the true lord, let alone 3 at once. Tongjia, unable to take her eyes off the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks, said, with spiritual objects becoming rarer in this world, I've never seen a golden core great demon before. Seeing Tongjia's fascination, Liu Yao casually called the spiritual sparrowhawks down to let her touch them. Tongjia was ecstatic, excitedly moving forward to reach out her hand. The giant birds of prey, each nearly the height of a 2-story building, landed with grace, yet their presence up close was formidable. Tongjia instinctively trembled but showed a look of deep fascination on her face, gently caressing them as she closed her eyes. These spirits of the sky, they are very happy, my lord has taken good care of them. Liu Yao laughed, a friend of mine also likes spirit birds, and he told me that all 3 of these are female. Indeed, in the hawk species it's the females that are divinely strong and majestic, the males are far inferior. Is that because the females need to defend their nests and offspring? That remains a mystery. Not only are female hawks stronger, they are also more beautiful than the males, boasting even more stunning plumage. After they exchanged a few words, Na Wei sniffed the moisture in the air to gauge the time and said, it's getting late. My lord is a busy man, so we won't impose any further. We have some connections beyond the Great Wall and are willing to serve the imperial court when the army marches. That would be excellent, Liu Yao nodded and then told Ru Yi, see the guests out and give them a bottle of elixirs. The young girl bowed and then led the guests away. Following Liu Yao's instructions, Yi handed them a bottle of the 10 complete immortal pill. One must not take this pill until they have achieved organ refining, take care with it, she instructed. Na Wei, sniffing the elixirs, said, you can tell by the scent that it's potent, certainly not for the use of those with low cultivation. After carefully stowing away the elixirs, Tong Jie, holding his hand, walked down the mountain, feeling some emotion. Who would have thought we'd actually meet the true Lord? It must be his way of honoring an old connection. The true Lord is known for being sentimental. It's widely known that those who follow him never suffer losses. Before long, Arya led them to the foot of the mountain. Tong Jie felt that this pretty young girl was very much favored by the true master, so establishing a good relationship could do no harm. Thus, she said, we are grateful for the fairy's escort. We've brought some young spirit pets. Would you like to take one to play with? Arya, after all, was still young and seemed somewhat tempted upon hearing this. Tong Jie hurriedly approached the front of the carriage, took out a brocade box and opened it to reveal a spiritual sparrowhawk egg. The true master's reputation has skyrocketed, and accordingly, the value of the sparrowhawks has gone up. I just happen to have an egg of excellent quality. She believed that Sui Arya would certainly like this gift. However, the young girl showed an unmistakable look of disgust. Having been bullied since the age of 8, Arya despised feathered beasts the most. She had thoughts of plucking their feathers and eating their meat, how could she possibly like them? This was somewhat beyond Tong Jie's expectations, but fortunately, during this rare trip to the capital, they had brought other things in the carriage as well. I'm not sure what kind of creature the fairy would like, why don't you choose one yourself? The back of the couple's old carriage had no seats, but was filled with jars and various cages, forming a small pet shop on wheels. There were not only unopened-eyed wolf cubs but also squirrels, tiger cubs, and others. These little creatures were exceptionally talented, making them much more likely to become spirit pets than their ordinary counterparts. Arya looked around with interest and suddenly noticed a strange cat staring at her. It had pale green pupils, a stout and short body covered in spotted fur, looking like a plump tabby cat. Seeing Arya interested, Tong Jie introduced. This is a wildcat. Don't be fooled by its chubby and seemingly clumsy appearance, it is also a wise and fierce predator. Do you like this one, fairy? Arya gently nodded her head, feeling that this little creature kept watching her with a sense of spirituality. Tong Jie handed the cage to Arya, if the fairy likes it, please take it. It's wonderful for easing boredom. Since the couple had a connection with the uncle master, there would be future interactions. Arya therefore graciously accepted this gift. But inside the cage, the tabby cat's eyes revealed a hint of cunning, its half-lipped smirk displaying a look of scorn. Stupid humans! After saying goodbye, Arya cheerfully walked up the mountain with the cage in hand. Arriving at her room, she opened the cage and picked up the tabby cat. The rich and soft fur was a delight to touch, and the green pupils were beautiful and exquisite. Arya said happily, from now on, your name is Ali, right? I'll go tell Uncle Master about keeping a pet first. The young girl put Ali back into the cage and turned to look for Liu Yao to talk about keeping a pet. But as soon as she left, Ali stretched out a paw, unhooked the latch of the cage, and elegantly walked out with a poised step. Change of plans. No need to sneak in, I can entirely enter with honor and dignity. Next, I need to find the 3 golden core members of my kind and awaken the memories in their bloodline. 3 spirit birds, great! After the job's done, I can just ride them and leave. Ali, with its graceful steps, strutted defiantly around Jingyi Garden. Even if seen by someone, there was no cause for concern, what evil could a cat possibly harbor? Ali was naturally adept at concealment, unless she chose to reveal herself, outsiders couldn't discern anything at all. Find the 3 of my kind and take them back. Figure out how did they achieve core formation in a place where spiritual energy dissipates. Oh! Here comes one. Just then, the massive frame of Yi descended from the sky. Chapter 511. All creatures in this world have their own dispositions, and the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks were no exception. Compared to the other 2, Yi had a more simple and honest nature, with small eyes that held a semblance of the wisdom typical of a husky. Ali, on the other hand, was the picture of cleverness and was overjoyed upon seeing Yi. Good. I'll start with this one that's not so bright. Ali cocked its head and meowed, meow woo woo. In the strange meowing, visibly expanding sound waves spread out to envelop Rui, making it appear somewhat dazed. This technique was none other than the release of the mind force that only someone at the level of spirit refinement of divine fetal breathing could employ. Clearly, this tabby cat was no ordinary creature. Ollie's eyes shone with triumph as it employed the language unique to its kind to initiate the mystical refinement method's spirit awakening technique, which could awaken the bloodline memories of this large bird before it, thus enabling this creature, domesticated by humans, to realize its own species and to recognize who its true kin were. If everything went as planned, Allie could take back 3 golden core great demons and earn tremendous merit. Ollie's smugness lasted for no more than 3 seconds before the human-like expression on its cat face froze. Just as Rui shook its head, true chi that was invisible to the naked eye rose up, forming fiery flames that allowed it to forcibly break free from the mystical technique. What's going on? Why do you refuse my spirit awakening technique? Allie was incredibly surprised. The technique it deployed was not of an offensive nature but, on the contrary, was beneficial to monster beasts. Many great demons often used it on their offspring to enhance their spiritual nature. Could it be, you identify more with humans? As Allie was pondering, it suddenly felt a malevolent gaze upon itself. Looking up, it saw Rui eyeing it closely, cocking its large head, as saliva dripped from its mouth, as if it had spotted a delicious treat. Hey, 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 don't tell me, you want to eat me. No sooner had Allie spoken than Rui suddenly pecked down. After all, as a feline, Allie was agile and managed to leap to the side just in time. The terrifying beak grazed its body and with a clack broke off a chunk of a millstone-sized rock. A few splinters of stone that hit Ollie's body prompted it to glance at the crispy hard rock and gulp nervously, its sweat pouring like rain. If it had been even slightly slower just then, it would have been a goner. Wait, wait, wait! I'm one of your kin! It screamed in panic, but Rui, saliva still dripping, pecked again. Allie could only dodge in unpredictable movements, using the innate agility of its feline species. Meanwhile, it employed every kind of mystical refinement method it knew: mind enchantment technique, control heart technique to no avail, as if tossing a clay oxen into the sea. Rather, it was Rui that surged with powerful true chi, charging wildly and turning the entire forest into a total mess. Allie was surrounded by danger and on the verge of collapse. Why is it so powerful? Is its demonic energy endless? As Rui continued to fail to catch Allie, it grew impatient and, with a flap of its wings, took to the sky, preparing to strike down from above. This was a skill unique to birds of prey, and Allie knew it had no chance of evading it. The disparity in combat prowess was just too great, even the gust from the flapping wings was too much to withstand, almost blowing it into the air. By now, Rui had adjusted its posture and predicted the likely escape route of its target, diving down at a speed of 1,100 km per hour. The massive body carried an immense presence, overshadowing the entire land while many of the towering trees groaned under the pressure. Allie, having lost all hope, collapsed to the ground, bracing for the tragic fate of becoming food. But just then, a soft yet urgent cry rang out, "Stop it! Don't you bully Allie!" Allie looked up to see the little girl who had brought it up the mountain. And with that shout, the core formation great demon that was diving down with resplendent might actually stopped its motion and gently floated to the ground. Rui stared at the small delicacy about to be hers with some reluctance, while Arya quickly stepped in front of Allie, saying seriously, "Elder Uncle has already agreed to let me keep a spirit pet. If you dare to bully it, I'll tell Elder Uncle." It was then that Rui released a reluctant screech and flew away with spread wings. The strong wind stirred up sent sand and stones flying everywhere, leaving the area in disarray, as both girl and cat instinctively covered their heads and faces. Afterward, Arya picked up Allie with some concern and said, "How did you run out here? Thank goodness you're okay." At that moment, Allie appeared badly scratched with patches of fur missing, its dazed expression eliciting pity. But inside her heart, a storm raged. The core formation great demon was actually scared away by a little girl. No. The demon wasn't scared of the girl but of that Lord Lu. Plans have changed, I need to lie low here and bide my time. Allie immediately put on a languid and flattering demeanor, rubbing its head against the young girl's hand and even licking with its tongue. Arya giggled continuously, holding her pet as she left the devastated area. And so, Jingyi Garden gained an inconspicuous cat. This cat seemed very timid, daring to leave the house only when accompanied by Arya. If Arya was not around, she would hide inside without venturing out. Because Ali found out that not only that particularly dumb bird treated her as a snack. The other two looked at her with equally frightening eyes, drooling as if seeing her as food. Ali admitted that she would definitely not be able to avoid a plunge from the sky, so she had to be extra careful, cautious, and then even more careful. Meanwhile, Li Pei began to fully prepare for the impending war. Izumo, coveting Korea and eyeing it greedily, realized that eliminating threats from the land beforehand was definitely the best strategy. Thus, the whole court was making efforts to cooperate, and overall, things were going smoothly. Firstly, there was no shortage of food, which solved a big problem. Funds were barely sufficient, as a lot of treasures were confiscated previously after the extermination of Grandmaster Yuan and the wealthy clans. The military's morale was high, eager to earn their stripes. The Imperial Fist totaled 50,000 men, originally the Western Expedition Army that established its might in the western frontier, already possessing high combat prowess. After having been through the invasion of the coalition forces of the great powers and being baptized by the roar of the golden dragon filled with a Yan Huang wishful power, their overall quality had improved significantly. However, even so, out of these 50,000, there were less than 5,000 who could wear armor, and the vast majority were just auxiliary forces. This number included the masters provided by supporters such as Wudang, Joyful Sect, Fawa Temple, and other factions in support of Liu Yao. Incidentally, the majority of Liu Yao's supporters were the lower-level martial sects and boxing gyms, who still retained a heart full of chivalry and righteousness. Most of them were in the bone-tempering realm or organ-refining realm, and their enthusiastic participation greatly strengthened the base military force. Additionally, Li Pei invited Daoist Zhou He to join the Jiangnan Manufacturing Bureau to oversee the research and development work. Currently, if it's just about manufacturing ammunition, the Jiangnan Manufacturing Bureau has no issues. But Li Pei wanted to try having it repair damaged weapons and mecha. The construction of mecha and battle armor was very simple, what widened the technological gap was modern composite materials like boron carbide armor. Simple repairs weren't entirely out of the question. Anyway, everything was proceeding in an orderly fashion. That is until one day when the Zhenhai fleet submitted a report, once again requesting the reorganization of the fleet. Li Pei immediately felt a great headache, as this was not an issue that could be solved with money. Chapter 512. The Zhenhai fleet's warships were mostly purchased from Jihad, with only simple maintenance capabilities of their own. After the naval battle with Izumo, which left them with severe damages, only a few gunboats are currently seaworthy, while all others have lost their combat capabilities within the port. Yet, the conquest of Goryeo places sea power as the utmost priority. The two countries are separated by the sea, making it extremely convenient to transport troops and supplies through both sea and land, more so as Goryeo is a peninsula. Controlling the sea equates to holding the initiative in the war. Therefore, it is urgent to reorganize the navy. However, the matter involves too much and cannot be resolved by simply issuing an imperial decree and allocating funds. Li Pei was already worried, and now her own master had added fuel to the fire. Yu Yanmei arrived gracefully, carrying 3 swords with her. The Long Chuan sword and Tai were at her waist, while the lake sword was on her back. "Master, why are you carrying 3 swords? It looks odd. Fran insists on following me, I had no choice but to bring them along," explained Yu Yanmei with a helpless expression, then she stated her purpose. "Deng Baxiang from the Zhenhai fleet asked me to speak on their behalf for the reconstruction of the fleet. See what you can do, help if you can." Yu Yanmei had fought alongside these naval officers and knew of their valor, she wanted to help them in her heart. Li Pei nodded and said, "I also wish to rebuild the navy, but there are many difficulties. Let's discuss it with a few ministers first. If it doesn't work, we'll ask Liu Yao for help." Li Pei immediately summoned several high officials for discussion. After her ascension, she had used the imperial palace merely as an office and rarely resided there. Thus, following Liu Yao's suggestion, she placed the 6 ministries and most other government agencies inside the imperial city, allotting palaces as office spaces. The departments were close to each other, allowing for timely communication and a substantial increase in efficiency. At the moment, it took less than a quarter of an hour for Zhang Jin to lead several high officials over. The one leading was the Prime Minister, Zhang Wenda, followed by Yan Jingming, the Minister of Revenue. The Minister of Works looked fairly young and was none other than Zhou Xiaoei. Having a great grandmaster for a father yet only reaching marrow cleansing at over 30 showed his lack of interest in the martial path. He was keen on engineering and construction, so he went along with his heart's desires and took up the position of Minister of Works. After bowing respectfully, the three of them reviewed the memorial concerning the Genhai fleet presented by Li Pei. Admiral Ding Xianda has once again lamented to us that his flagship is stranded at sea, and the entire fleet only has a few sampans that can go to sea. What do my ministers think? Zhang Wenda contemplated briefly before speaking first. Some time ago, the Genhai fleet attempted to repair the Ding Yuan ship themselves, but due to unknown damages during the repairs, it got stranded before even leaving the port. The importance of sea defenses is well known. In my view, we might as well take the opportunity of the Goryeo campaign to reorganize the fleet. Yan Jingming was the second to speak. This old official has no objections, and will certainly do his utmost to cooperate. Next should have been Zhou Xiaoyi's turn to speak, but he furrowed his brows and pondered for a long while before saying. The Genhai fleet's warships are severely damaged, the costs of repairs and building new ones are much the same. Moreover, having been through the ordeal of a world war, shipbuilding, especially battleships, has undergone significant advancements. The Genhai fleet's previous ships are somewhat outdated, and even if we restore them with great effort, they won't be of much use. Everyone's brows were furrowed. Indeed, the most effortless solution would be to purchase new ones. But the original partner, Jihad, was preoccupied with its own affairs. The great Yi dynasty did not acknowledge the unequal treaties signed by the Shun dynasty and faced opposition from the powers, so it was also impossible to purchase battleships. The matter was suddenly at an impasse. Seeing the difficulty surpassing her expectations, Li Pei simply said, "Let's set this aside for now, I will find a way." The three ministers below knew their sovereign would inevitably have to seek help from the true lord back home. Zhou Xiaoyi spoke more closely to Liu Yao's family and now addressed the emperor directly. As the campaign approaches, please think of a solution quickly. At this moment, everyone was somewhat curious. The true lord had a cave heaven minor world with abundant resources, but did he have any battleships? If there really were large battleships, that would mean there were oceans in the minor world. Jingyi Garden. It was now the fourth day after Liu Yao had made his breakthrough, and he had already stabilized his realm. He went with the Liao family sisters to the training ground to test the strength of his body with various firearms, starting with large caliber weapons, skipping small caliber firearms altogether. Liao Qi hoisted a terrifying weapon with a 2-meter barrel and 6 gun pipes, the 200 kilograms weight slide in her hands. Aiming at her beloved, she called out in a delicate voice, "I'm going to fire." Liu Yao beckoned, "Come on." As he readied himself, Liao Qi pulled the trigger. Among the deafening noise akin to a jackhammer drilling through a wall, 6 gun pipes rotated and spewed out half-meter long flames. The 20mm caliber cannonballs erupted like a storm. Facing firepower that could easily tear through armored vehicles, Liu Yao's thoughts shifted, and his entire body was enveloped in surging true qi. This peculiar life energy instantly fortified every cell, making their toughness and tear resistance reach an unimaginable level, surpassing Kevlar. At this moment, the composition of proteins in Liu Yao's body was somewhat similar to a miraculous material spider silk. This seemingly insignificant substance produced by these little creatures had a strength that is 5-10 times that of steel. Of course, Liu Yao wasn't yet at this level, but he was sufficient to withstand the attack of the fire god cannon. Each cannonball shattered upon impact against his body, sparking a dense shower of sparks and scattering high-temperature metal shards. The places where Liu Yao was hit only showed some fine cracks, and occasionally a well-angled shot would penetrate the skin, but it would be either caught or deflected by his muscles. After a round of shooting, the gunfire ceased. Having endured 30 cannonballs, Liu Yao only suffered some minor superficial injuries, which were visibly healing at a rapid pace. The Liao family sisters hurried over, touching the naturally robust body of the man and exclaimed in admiration. "Worthy of the flesh realm! To think you're fine after taking those shots." Liu Yao smiled and made a judgment. "I'm not yet completely immune to the damage of the fire god cannon, but handling 100 or so shots should be no problem. I do need to find sturdier clothes, though, to prevent becoming undressed in the midst of battle. The higher the realm, the greater the intensity of battle, and one wouldn't have the energy to care about clothing." Liao Qi teased him cheerfully, "Your body looks pretty good right now, just leave it bare." As she spoke, she touched her beloved's well-shaped pectoral muscles, and Liu Yao also reciprocated, causing the girl to giggle. Just then, another voice came. "That won't do, who knows how many temptresses it will lure." It turned out that Li Pei and Yu Yanmei had returned, wanting to discuss the issue of the lack of ships with Liu Yao. "What's up, is there a problem?" "Yes, there's a tricky issue. Li Pei said somewhat embarrassedly, the Zhenhai fleet needs battleships. With battleships, we can control the sea. Do you have a solution, husband? This was no small problem. However, Liu Yao's eyes lit up. A Iowa-class battleship was still in the space-time bubble. He had casually stolen it from Star Alliance country when he passed by Hawaii. That thing required at least a few hundred people to operate and hadn't had a chance to be used yet. Now, it finally had its moment. This is an easy matter. Pai Pei, contact the Zhenhai fleet and have them send 3,000 people to wait at Jinmen port. Li Pei's face lit up with joy, grabbing Liu Yao's hand. You really have a way, husband. Liu Yao laughed. This is called being at the right place at the right time. Opportunities always favor the prepared. Chapter 513. Having received the affirmative response from her husband, Li Pei immediately used the home phone to issue orders, commanding that 3,000 members of the Zhenhai fleet arrive at Jinmen port by noon the next day. In the practice field, Yu Yanmei joined in to help Liu Yao further test his body. All she did was grab Liu Yao's hand, and vigorous true qi burst forth, heating continuously until his hand turned red-hot, resembling high-temperature metal. I can actually withstand temperatures close to 1,000 degrees. Looking at his hand, Liu Yao was extremely astonished. At that moment, he only felt a bit of warmth. Then, with a crackling sound, his red-hot hand rapidly discharged heat into the surrounding air, cooling down to normal body temperature in just 5 seconds. Amazing, this is comparable to top-notch aerospace materials. The flesh realm had greatly increased all attributes of his body, and at the same time, dramatically enhanced his resistance to abnormal states. Furthermore, Yu Yanmei also said, after reaching the Jinwuo realm, the human body becomes a realm of its own, no longer needing to breathe. You can try to forget the instinct to breathe. Is that so? Liu Yao controlled his body to hold his breath, and indeed, he felt no discomfort. It was true qi that replaced oxygen's role, supplying the entire body. However, without conscious effort to maintain it, the body would still instinctively breathe. After a period of exertion, Liu Yao's understanding of the Wuo realm deepened even more. Although this realm was powerful, it was essentially basic and transitional, preparing for the true sublimation into the golden body realm. The Liao family sisters also learned a lot by the side, gaining much insight. Liao Ya was the most engaged, fluttering her large eyes and carefully feeling Liu Yao's body. Liu Yao transmitted a message to her, "Senior sister, tonight I'll let you feel to your heart's content." Liao Ya's face remained unchanged as she subtly and fiercely pinched her stinky junior brother with her little finger against her thumb. At this time, Li Pei, who had been making the phone call, also came back, and he even brought a piece of clothing for Liu Yao along the way. Seeing everyone gathered, Yu Yanmei cleared her throat and announced something important. During this expedition against Goryeo, I will join the army and march to battle. The few people present were slightly startled upon hearing this, but Yu Yanmei continued, I'm about to make a breakthrough, and it's a good opportunity to seek my own path in the midst of battle. Everyone immediately showed delight and congratulated her one after another. Yu Yanmei was close to breaking through to the golden body realm, which is the pinnacle of the martial path in today's world, and to have a great grandmaster in the family. Moreover, with her as the powerhouse accompanying the army, Liu Yao felt even more at ease. Liu Yao wouldn't lightly involve himself in the Goryeo battle, and it was not merely for the purpose of tempering his troops. Firstly, this was a war of nations, where the principle was kings face kings, and Liu Yao, being the king of bombs, had to be used at the most critical moment. Secondly, after breaking through to the Wuo realm, his cultivation tasks were just beginning, and much busier times lay ahead. He needed to nourish his divine soul in the flesh realm, tirelessly break through the minor realms of Fuyao and lightning hearing, in order to cross the heavenly tribulation. Reaching the thunder tribulation realm was the core objective. In this way, facing Su Fu would naturally be like having the odds greatly in his favor. It wasn't that he couldn't help at all, though. Looking at the few sisters who were jubilantly surrounding Yu Yanmei, Liu Yao also remembered. In the space-time bubble, there were many fireworks collected a long time ago, which could support the front lines even from the imperial city. The next day, at Jinmen port. Despite having experienced a calamity, this place was, after all, an important water and land terminal and traffic hub in the north, and it had already recovered its vitality. Shops were densely packed, warehouses were everywhere, merchants gathered, and the hustle and bustle was very lively. And today, there was a rare sight at the port attracting the gazes of people making a living. 3,000 military soldiers wearing blue and white uniforms were lined up in formation. They were all solemn and imposing, and someone immediately recognized them. They are from the Genhai fleet. What are they doing in Jinmen? The spectators stopped in their tracks and watched curiously. And the soldiers of Genhai fleet stood upright, motionless. Upon receiving Li Pei's order, Admiral Ding Xianda dared not delay. He hastily gathered 3,000 elite troops and, coming from the Genhai Guard Navy port at starry night, waited here as dawn just began to lighten the sky. At its most glorious time, the Genhai fleet had more than 5,000 soldiers and sailors, but only 2,500 remained after the battle with Izumo. Growing a qualified navy wasn't easy, and only 3,500 had been recovered over the past 3 years. This time, they were deploying in full force. At this moment, everyone from top to bottom in the Genhai fleet awaited expectantly, their eyes filled with longing. The miracles created by Lord Lu were too numerous. It was unknown how he would resolve the fleet's problems. Lin Zhongqing, Deng Baxiang, and others also felt a burning anticipation. You cherish what you lose. Without their warships for 3 years, they realized that ships were not only weapons and fortresses but also a spiritual haven. Enduring ridicule from foreigners and the covetous glances of demon beasts while studying abroad, returning with a body full of skills, they simply could not be without a stage for using their might. Only with warships could their dreams be realized. Having warships was the ladder to progress, and the roar of heavy cannons was what stirred the heart of every man. Just then, the bell tower at the dock chimed with a long, resonant tone. The noon hour had arrived. The neat ranks of soldiers couldn't help but stir slightly, even the ever-stable Deng Baxiang's hand trembled involuntarily, forced to grip it firmly with his other hand. Just as everyone's eagerness peaked, a pretty little girl arrived. It was Ye. Please board the ships, I will take you to meet Uncle Master. Meanwhile, Lu Yao, accompanied by a few curious sisters, rode on the spiritual sparrowhawks to the Bohai Sea. He opened an unprecedented grand space-time bubble and extracted the Iowa-class battleship sponsored by the Star Alliance country. This 270-meter-long, 45,000-ton displacement steel fortress appeared, its thunderous emergence causing the sea to swell with towering waves. The energy of the Star Key dropped straight to the bottom, 100%. Luckily, with his progress in the spirit refining stage, his mind force grew stronger day by day, allowing for a 20% charge with focused effort daily. Wow, what a huge ironclad ship! Liao Ya and Liao Qi leaped onto the battleship, touching here and looking there, amazed and astounded. Li Pei's phoenix eyes widened in shock, she gasped in astonishment, even the usually composed Yu Yanmei showed a look of surprise. Both had seen real warships, and Yu Yanmei even had experience fighting at sea, deeply aware of how incredible this vast and visibly advanced ship was. The turrets were bigger than houses, the barrels so large one could easily crawl inside, and they were triple-mounted, a total of 9. If operated by spirit refining gunners, a simultaneous salvo might seriously damage someone in the Golden Body realm. Accompanied by the exclaims of the women, the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks too landed on the bridge, chirping curiously. At this moment, Lu Yao stood on the deck, gazing into the distance. Beneath his feet lay the Missouri, built during the World War II era, an antique ship by any measure. She had been retired in 1955, but unexpectedly, 30 years later, was pulled back into service for the Gulf War. Thus, after retiring again in 1992, she was maintained in a state of combat readiness, ready for the old warrior to return to the fray at any moment. Everything from ammunition, powder bags, fuel, and the like was prepared, and the boilers and engines were also well maintained. Now Lu Yao was reaping the benefits. At this moment, looking at the shiny, towering battleship, Li Pei was extremely satisfied. My lord, with this ironclad warship, the campaign against Goryeo is already half successful. Lu Yao smiled. A famous surrender ceremony was once held on this ship. I hope to achieve a similar success here. Li Pei? As Li Pei puzzled over his words, a distant horn sounded. The Genhai fleet's transport ship Haijing had arrived. It was filled with soldiers in dress uniforms, all craning their necks to take a look this way. Chapter 514. At this moment, the soldiers of the Genhai fleet crowded at the ship's railings, vying with each other to gaze at the towering steel fortress in the distance. Its massive size was clearly visible even from 10 kilometers away. Without the need to scramble for binoculars, individuals like Lin Zhongqing and Deng Baxiang, who were at the blood exchange realm, could even make out the details on the ship. Is this our new battleship? It's huge. The Genhai fleet's former flagship, the Ding Yuan ship, only has a displacement of 7,400 tons and is less than 100 meters in length. The sea boundary transport ship they were currently on had an even smaller displacement of just 1,300 tons. Whereas Liu Yao's ship had a displacement of 45,000 tons and a length of 270 meters. The difference in size between the two was like that of an adult and a child, and as they drew closer the disparity became even more pronounced, requiring them to look up to behold the colossal vessel. The crowd first shouted "Long live!" in salute, after which, Admiral Ding Xianda led 1,000 officers aboard, while the ordinary soldiers could only watch with envy. Upon boarding, their eyes immediately lit up. 406 mm naval cannons, my goodness, 9 triple-mounted guns. And there are anti-aircraft guns. These have only recently been developed by the Western powers to shoot down airplanes, and we even have those. There are 30 large-caliber guns and countless smaller ones. The firepower is extremely formidable, one sweep could match our entire fleet. While they were whispering among themselves, the chatter suddenly ceased, and everyone hurriedly stood at attention. It turned out that Liu Yao and Li Pei had come over. Liu Yao made a beckoning gesture, and Li Pei stepped forward to say, "Gentlemen, this ship, the Ji Xuanjiu, is your new battleship." An uncontrollable cheer erupted from the crowd. Only a few people felt the name was too gentle, as battleships usually bear more powerful names. In those days, those who had studied abroad were well educated, and someone immediately explained. The name comes from Zhu Bian's old stories of Qiuwei from the Song dynasty. The buckwheat is most afraid of frost when it is bearing fruit. Rain at this time is particularly good for the crop, which the farmers call Ji Xuanjiu, frost-dispelling rain. It not only implies timely rain but also the sweeping away of frost with a heavy rain. Naming the battleship thus has a profound meaning. Our Lord and His Majesty have great expectations for us, we must not let them down. Ding Xianda swiftly led the officers in bowing to express their thanks. Li Pei continued, "Next, our forces will set sail for the expedition to Goryeo in 20 days. You must master this battleship in these short 20 days and firmly grasp sea control. Can you do it?" The crowd promptly responded with loud cheers, "We will give it our all, sparing no effort or even our lives." The morale of the Genhai fleet, from top to bottom, was high. They were determined to conquer this towering steel fortress. Liu Yao also had full confidence in them. Although the Iowa-class battleship was a product of the World War II era and was not far ahead of the other world, mastering it in just 20 days was no easy task. But the naval officers and soldiers before him were no ordinary people. They all had cultivation, some even at significant levels of spirit refinement realm, and moreover, they possessed the courage and determination to sacrifice their lives. Mastering an antique battleship should not be too difficult. After all, they could even calculate atomic bomb equations on an abacus. Subsequently, 3,000 soldiers boarded the ship to familiarize themselves with the battleship as quickly as possible. The entire process went smoother than expected. Most of the officers had overseas experiences, especially those who studied in countries like Minis, for instance, Deng Baxiang's deputy, Chen Jingkui. The Western text on the ship was clear at a glance for them, and the design style of the battleship was coherent with what they knew. Even for the things they did not fully understand, they could make educated guesses that were often correct. What was more unexpected was that this Missouri had become a tourist attraction, and the souvenirs provided on board turned out to be of great help. Just as a celebrity's former home would always sell biographies, someone found a book in a corner, titled "The Glorious Twilight of the Era of Heavy Battleships, the Iowa-class Battleship Operating Manual." It roughly explained everything about the battleship, truly a godsend. Although it was in foreign languages, 99% of the people present could understand it, and they were suddenly enlightened. 2 hours after the boilers were heated, this steel fortress that had been submerged for decades once again spewed black smoke and slowly started to move. Although this was just the most basic first step, it was enough to make everyone cheer with excitement. Li Pei was quite satisfied and nodded, saying to Ding Xianda, "If you need anything, go directly to the Jiangnan Manufacturing Bureau, they will prioritize and meet all your needs." Ding Xianda bowed and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty. The warship currently does not lack fuel or cannonballs. Next, I will lead the soldiers in naval exercises to familiarize themselves with the warship quickly." However, he hesitated slightly, then asked, "May I know if the selection for the captain has been decided?" The deployment of the Ji Xuanjiu was bound to be of great importance. As Ding Xianda was an admiral, he needed to be stationed at the Zhenhai Guard base on Liuyugang Island and could not always accompany the ship, so a captain was needed. Li Pei immediately announced the appointment of the captain for Ji Xuanjiu. Lin Zhongqing shall serve as the captain with Deng Buxiang as the deputy captain. This battleship was of significant meaning, and Li Pei chose Lin Zhongqing, who had known Liu Yao for a very long time. Lin Zhongqing quickly stepped forward and knelt to express his gratitude. Everyone envied him. Only Deng Buxiang felt a little melancholic. After all, who wouldn't want a ship of their own? It was then that Liu Yao spoke loudly, "Everyone, familiarize yourselves with the battleship quickly. The Imperial Navy will not have just one ship." His voice was not loud, but it clearly reached everyone's ears. The morale of all the soldiers soared. This meant that everyone present had more opportunities for promotion and development. It was then that Ding Xianda proposed with a smile, "In that case, I request His Majesty to allow the merger of the Zhenhai fleet with the Yangtze River Navy to make up for the shortage of personnel." Li Pei generously said, "Not just that, you can pick anyone you want from the ship administration academies across the land." The Zhenhai fleet had already shown its extraordinary resolve and determination in the naval battle against Izumo, winning the trust of Liu Yao and Li Pei, and thus receiving full support. With the major matters settled, the Liu Yao family rode the spiritual sparrowhawk back home. The officers respectfully saluted and bid farewell, only standing straight again when they could no longer be seen. They continued studying everything about the battleship, and after a while, they were able to operate the gun turrets, adjusting the angle of the ship's guns. The good news kept coming. This battleship boasted an extremely fast cruising speed of 33 knots. It was considered a high-speed ship, yet it packed such fierce firepower. Moreover, several chief engineers exclaimed that, after seeing the internal structure of the warship, they had an epiphany and were confident in repairing several lightly damaged warships. In this way, the strength of the fleet even exceeded that of when they were completely victorious. Ding Xianda gathered several senior officers to discuss. The news of the new battleship must be kept strictly confidential. The imperial court is mobilizing for war. Izumo must have already gotten wind of it and will surely send warships to provoke us in the coming days. Last time, they ambushed us, and now is a great opportunity for vengeance. The officers were excited at the news, and Lin Zhongqing said, "You mean we also set up an ambush for them?" "Exactly that," said Ding Xianda. "The warship's arsenal contains many cannonballs, enough for a battle. We won't dock or enter a port, we'll have supply ships bring us the necessary food and fuel. Izumo won't be aware of this ship's existence, and they'll surely fall for a big trap." The officers all said in unison, "Admiral, you are wise." Chapter 515. While Liu Yao was busy with the warship, coincidentally, Izumo's Yamato was also completed. This largest battleship in naval history was finally equipped with 460 mm caliber naval guns. It also featured 3 triple gun turrets, a total of 9 massive guns, along with various secondary armaments and anti-aircraft machine guns. The whole ship was covered with extensive armor, with key parts of the hull able to withstand hits from 460 mm cannons. Even the smokestacks had protective armor fitted. This too was a formidable steel beast, roughly the same size as the Ji Xuanjiu. The two were evenly matched and were bound to engage in an impassioned exchange of fire, each seeking to leave as much of their ammunition as possible inside the other. Furthermore, Izumo also initiated the construction of a series of battleships like the ISE class, Congo class, Fuzhang class, and others. Such relentless militarization should have bankrupted resource-poor Izumo long ago, with people within the country living in misery and revolt brewing. On the contrary, the internal situation in Izumo was exceptionally stable. The public not only refrained from revolting but was actually eagerly anticipating war. Because they had tasted the sweetness of aggressive expansion. Izumo occupied Goryeo and several smaller southeastern countries, sending a steady stream of resources home under brutal plundering and exploitation. Many people made a fortune from the war, small scale like gauze, large scale like tanks and warships, and the whole country reaped enormous benefits from it. At the same time, social and economic development soared. Industrial production increased by 80%, and exports nearly doubled. Telephone subscribers jumped from 550,000 to 982,000. The streets were filled with buses and taxis, and 3 new subways were opened. The rate of households owning radios in the city climbed dramatically from 26% to 45%. All these signs of prosperity were founded on ruthless foreign plunder. And the people of Izumo, to maintain their affluent life, would only support aggressive wars more firmly. They didn't even need Emperor Su-fu to deceive them before they eagerly joined the bandwagon of invasion and expansion. The young men of Izumo enthusiastically joined the military, eager to make their mark by stepping over the corpses of innocents in the countries they invaded. Old people, women, and children were also contributing to the war effort. Especially women, who were no less fanatical than men. The news of the Great Yi dynasty's war mobilization was promptly discovered by Izumo. Izumo certainly did not want to lose its important colonies and immediately sent reinforcements to Goryeo. One lieutenant from the 37th Regiment of the Osaka Division Inu Seiichi also received mobilization orders and was about to be dispatched to Goryeo. But Inu Seiichi was somewhat displeased, as he had only been married for 3 days. His wife was as tender as honey, and their affection was incredibly intense. Naturally, he was unhappy about leaving his beautiful wife at such a time. But unable to defy military orders, Inu Seiichi sighed and grudgingly packed his belongings at home. All of this was seen by his newlywed wife, Chiyoko. Unexpectedly, the petite and gentle woman, not wishing to impact her husband's fighting spirit, performed an act that shocked the nation. On the night before Inu Seiichi was set to depart, Chiyoko lay beside her husband and slit her own throat with a small knife. The frail woman's strength was limited, and her act of suicide took a long time, yet it failed to awaken her husband. Not until the next morning did Inu Seiichi notice the blood-soaked tatami and his petite wife lying in a pool of blood. And in her hands, he found a will titled A Military Wife's Lesson. The letter read, "My heart is filled with limitless joy, I hope from now on you will not have a shred of concern for me. I wish you success and bless you." The letter was clearly intended to inspire her husband. After reading the will, Inu Seiichi shed not a single tear. He entrusted the aftermath to his family and boarded the battleship bound for Goryeo without looking back. In a normal country, such behavior would be considered insane, but in Izumo, it became a model for propaganda. Major newspapers covered the story in full pages, creating an image of Chiyoko as a shining example of Izumo's wifely virtue. The national media followed suit, and movie companies rapidly turned the story into the film Lieutenant Inu's Wife, which was released nationwide and even sent to the front lines of all colonies. Under such unthinkable behavior, not only were the soldiers at the front lines greatly encouraged, but they also indulged in slaughtering and raping without any psychological burden. Women in Izumo fell into madness. Some married soldiers about to deploy in hasty ceremonies, some went directly to the front lines to assist in the fight, and some even volunteered to be comfort women, offering their bodies. And it wasn't just young women, ordinary citizens of Izumo, from 80-year-old elders to 8-year-old children, were doing everything they could to support the troops at the front. They volunteered to console the army, comfort the soldiers' families, mourn the fallen, and care for the wounded. Those injured in the front lines while committing atrocities were treated as heroes. And so, the entire nation was engulfed in a frenzy of war worship, greedily fixing its sights on divine land. Even the lowest-ranking farmers firmly believed that for Izumo to rise, it must swallow divine land whole. By devouring this lush land, the people could lead prosperous and better lives. It was against such a ravenous monster, salivating at the scent of blood, that Liu Yao had to contend. The two nations faced each other across the sea, trade frequent, the recent situation within Izumo country quickly becoming known to the Shun dynasty. Many businesses engaged in international trade took the initiative to curry favor with the imperial court, providing a continuous stream of intelligence. At this moment, Liu Yao had in his hands several well-organized memorials, detailing the crazed sentiments within Izumo country. No souls rest beneath an atomic bomb. Liu Yao muttered a phrase that no one else understood and passed the memorials to the curious girls by his side. The family was engaged in their daily routine massage, currently massaging the spiritual sparrowhawk, while Suaria held Ali, waiting her turn. The ladies' hands moved unceasingly while they passed around the memorials to read through them. Li Pei sneered, "Izumo has been expanding through foreign aggression for over a decade now. Without the support of ordinary people, how could it have lasted?" The others frowned deeply, their faces full of disgust at the thought of this crazed nation. Even the ever-gentle Liaoya sincerely agreed with her junior brother's decision to conquer their country. After reading, Suaria's pretty face turned frosty. The young girl didn't have much feeling about national enmity or family hatred, she simply thought that this disgusting little country had provoked her uncle one too many times and deserved to be killed. Caught up in her agitated thoughts, her arms unconsciously exerted strength, forgetting she was holding Ali, who began to pant heavily because of the tight squeeze. But Ali wasn't concerned with the discomfort, she was staring dumbfounded at the spiritual sparrowhawk receiving its massage. 5 human race grandmasters devotedly serving, and daily at that, even a pig could achieve core formation. The 3 large birds could be seen closing their eyes in satisfaction, cooing contentedly, occasionally raising their wings or turning their necks to go along with their master's techniques. This posture alone showed immense pleasure, and the service of 5 grandmasters was undoubtedly blissful. Ali was envious and thought to herself, being labeled as a spirit pet, could she also receive some benefits? If these foolish humans insist on massaging me, I shall reluctantly indulge. Yet, to Ali's great anticipation, after waiting for quite some time, these humans finished massaging each other but completely ignored her. Seeing them about to leave with laughter and chatter, Ali panicked and quickly scampered to the kindest Liao Ye, meowing and acting cute. Damn it! I'm doing this for intelligence gathering. The cat bore her humiliation, her bright green eyes sparkling with hope. Liao Ye merely lifted a hand to pet her, casually remarking, Arya's pet is quite cute. And that was that. What was even more crushing for Ali, was seeing Lord Lu take out many cherished blood cores and feed them to the 3 large birds. They've already achieved core formation, it's a waste to feed them that. Give them to me. Ali was on the verge of a breakdown watching a handful of precious resources being treated like casual snacks, nearly revealing her cover to Liu Yao. But her extremely low combat power came with an advantage in stealth. Unless she chose to expose herself, dissecting her molecule by molecule would reveal nothing unusual. Liu Yao just thought the cat naturally possessed spiritual attributes and didn't pay it much attention. After the massage session ended, everyone prepared to leave. Yu Yanmei suddenly said to the women, I'll need Liu Yao for a few days. This statement created a subtle atmosphere. The group was curious, as Grandmaster Yu usually played the part of the chaste and pretended to be oblivious, why was she so bold today? Liao Ye laughed drily, Grandmaster Yu, please feel free to use him as you need. Yu Yanmei quickly realized the awkwardness in her words, her face flushed but her expression unchanged as she rapidly explained. I need his help with my cultivation, so you won't be seeing him for a few days. The women smiled knowingly, without a trace of awkwardness. Li Pei also spoke up, don't be shy, Master, use him for as long as you need to, in the hopes that we'll soon have another great grandmaster in the family. Having gone through much together, everyone had long since accepted the brave, tough woman with a cold exterior but warm interior, it was only she herself who remained hesitant. Chapter 516. The 2 arrived at the quiet room, and Liu Yao flipped his collar to lie on the ground, saying, Come on, don't treat me like a person. Ravage me as you please. Yu Yanmei gave him a kick, stop fooling around and get up, I have something serious to ask you about. Liu Yao sprang up, agile as a swallow. What is it that I can do for you? Yu Yanmei said, didn't I tell you before that I wanted to break through the spirit refinement realm to reach the fetal breath stage first so I can obtain the ability of crafting the subtle and mysterious and advance in the martial golden body? Liu Yao nodded repeatedly, this is a mature and prudent strategy, and the strength of your divine soul and mind force is also sufficient. So, can your soul travel and attach to my body, letting me feel how to sense and control the power of the mind force? Yu Yanmei outlined her plan, which sounded very reasonable. But Liu Yao reminded her, this won't be easy. Even if you are entirely willing in your heart, your body will still instinctively resist foreign divine souls. The success rate of possession doesn't just depend on the target's willpower, but also on the state of the body. Yu Yanmei was at the peak flesh realm, with her qi and blood like a roaring furnace, making possession extremely difficult. Forcing it might cause serious damage to both their divine souls and be detrimental to both of them. Yu Yanmei said with a light and breezy tone, let's just give it a try, no pressure. Thanks to your help, my cultivation speed has increased tenfold, which I'm already very content with. It's okay if it doesn't work out. After pondering for a moment, Liu Yao smiled and said, rest assured, and watch my technique. Then, he sat Yu Yanmei on the bed and whispered softly, try to relax as much as you can, relax. As he spoke, he traced his fingers gently down the beautiful curves of Yu Yanmei's back and leaned in, their heads rubbing together. It was a subtle reminder to the beauty that their relationship was already very intimate, having been physically close before, so the merging of souls shouldn't be too much of an issue. It served to remind her body to reduce subconscious resistance. After a while, with Liu Yao's soft whispering and their close physical contact, Yu Yanmei lost her aloof demeanor completely. She wriggled restlessly, her cheeks flushing as she urged, "Stop teasing, just give it a try, all right? I'll control my body not to resist." While speaking, she dispersed the true qi around her, leaving herself entirely defenseless. Liu Yao chuckled, "This is like that other thing, we can't rush it. We need to do the preparatory work. Just watch." A light emerged from his forehead, growing with the wind into an image of Liu Yao. Meanwhile, Liu Yao's own eyes lost focus, becoming somewhat dull as his thoughts transferred to his divine soul. Yu Yanmei reached out to touch the closest Liu Yao, but her hand passed right through him, causing her curiosity to pique. "Is this your divine soul? It looks exactly like the real person. It only seems so on the surface. It will be exactly like the real person after surviving the heavenly tribulation." Liu Yao's divine soul turned into an orb of light, circling around the beauty. Yu Yanmei reached out curiously and touched it, feeling the familiar warmth that brought her immense peace. At that moment, she realized that him showing his divine soul so openly was to let her see it clearly and put down as much of her subconscious guard as possible. Yu Yanmei cradled the light orb in her palms, deeply moved. If she had any malice, she could easily have severely damaged the young man's divine soul at that moment. His obvious full-hearted trust in her, along with his relentless efforts on her behalf, touched her deeply. Feeling the comforting warmth of the light orb, she took a deep breath and said, "Come on in and give it a try, I think it should be okay now. I'm going to start now. Don't worry. If anything goes wrong, I will immediately retreat." The divine soul drifted towards the beauty's glabella at a steady and careful pace, being very cautious. In Liu Yao's view, this was going to be a long and monumental task. Yu Yanmei was a very proud woman with a will of iron, and her body would instinctively fiercely resist the invasion of a foreign divine soul. But at this moment, just as Liu Yao's divine soul was slowly drifting over, Yu Yanmei actually lifted up the hair on her forehead and leaned in proactively. Liu Yao's divine soul immediately entered the beauty's glabella and disappeared, ready for the fierce resistance he expected to encounter. But after waiting for a long while, nothing happened, and instead, without any alarm, he easily entered Yu Yanmei's ancestral orifice in the glabella and saw her divine soul a walnut-sized, unimaginably pure and white flame without any impurities. Liu Yao exclaimed in surprise, "How can it be so easy? Logically, your subconscious should be resisting." Yu Yanmei's unnatural interruption came, "Liu Zizi, let's move on to the next step." Their divine souls nestled and merged, feeling each other's comfortably warm temperatures, which in truth needed no words. Yu Yanmei felt quite embarrassed, her entire being, from body to soul, now belonged to this young man. It was truly a twisted fate. Liu Yao also understood clearly and happily said, "Then I'm getting started." Immediately thereafter, he effortlessly took over the beauty's body. In the outside world, Yu Yanmei's eyes opened and closed, and her whole demeanor changed dramatically, adopting a touch of Liu Yao's persona. Liu Yao didn't waste any time, swiftly gathering up the beauty's mind force. This mental strength, disjointedly scattered with emotional changes, now under Liu Yao's skilled control, was fully focused at the glabella. After that, Liu Yao handled this force like a tongue tasting flavors, sensing the outside world and reflecting the information in his mind. Yu Yanmei felt as if it were her own body, and instantly understood what external projection of mind force meant. This was the core of spirit refining fetal breath core, and mastering it made breaking through realms as easy as reaching out for something. When the teaching was over, Liu Yao's divine soul returned to its place, and he was the first to open his eyes, looking expectantly at Yu Yanmei, who still had her eyes closed. About 5 minutes later, Yu Yanmei opened her eyes. Her eyes were bright and shining, like crystal clear gems, and the look she gave him seemed tangible. No, it was tangible. Liu Yao clearly felt a mental force sweep over himself. He knew what this signified: the demonstration of the ability to project mind force externally. Yu Yanmei gave a soft smile, like hundreds of flowers blooming in unison. "I've broken through the spirit refinement of divine fetal breathing. That's wonderful. I knew you'd have no problem." Liu Yao looked at the time. It had been less than 15 minutes since they both entered the room. Yu Yanmei said with feeling, "In an instant, you've helped me break through. Since getting to know you, it's been one surprise after another. It was your own accumulation, I just lent a hand." Liu Yao cheerfully beamed with joy. "With this, your advance to the Jin Gold body realm will be effortless, and it won't be long before I'll have to call you Grandmaster Yu." Yu Yanmei simply smiled in response and did not say more as she turned around and pulled out an iron chest from under the bed. Opening it, she took out a gold brick, 400 ounces, 12.5 kilograms, in international standard weight, given by Lu Yao. Lu Ziazi, I'm going to start consuming gold now, and you might as well watch. Yu Yanmei put the gold brick to her mouth and bit off a piece, swallowing it as though she was eating chocolate. Consuming gold was an ancient method of suicide among the upper-class society of Blue Star, yet in the other world, it was a key step for martial artists to advance into the golden body realm. Chapter 517. Since ancient times, gold has always maintained a transcendent status on Blue Star as a universal currency. Wherever there are human settlements, the topic of gold is never scarce, as if there's a predestined awareness of its magical properties. And the most notable characteristic of gold is that it's incredibly stable. Whether buried underground or submerged in water, and no matter how long it has been there, all that is needed is to gently wipe away the layer of dust, and its dazzling brilliance immediately re-emerges. At this moment, Yu Yanmei bit off a piece of gold the size of a walnut and swallowed it, then slowly said. It's said that Chi Yu, an ancient demon god, was fond of eating metal. The human race followed suit, seeking to imbibe gold and accumulate its eternity property to transform into an indestructible will through a special method. Even as the beauty spoke, she began removing her upper garment, clearly aiming to facilitate Lu Yao's observation. As long as you find the right technique, this step actually isn't too difficult. I'm starting now. Lu Yao hastily placed his hand on the beauty's abdomen, attentively tuning in. The mind force penetrated the elegant V-line of the moon fairy, vividly reflecting all that transpired within. Yu Yanmei consolidated her true qi in the abdominal area, turning it into a roiling torrent, continuously heating up. Her stomach suddenly became a furnace, with the temperature gradually rising to 800 degrees. The melting point of gold is only 1000 degrees, so although it wasn't entirely molten, it turned into a colloidal state like a piece of melted sugar. Someone in the leak-proof realm can withstand 1000 degrees of heat, but that's external. To do so internally is surely very painful and dangerous. However, Yu Yanmei's expression remained unchanged, utterly unconcerned, and Lu Yao, feeling the heat transmitted to his hand, didn't comment either. No matter the martial Dao realm, none comes without discomfort, always accompanied by suffering, exhaustion, pain, and significant risk. Magnolia flowers emanate fragrance from the bitter cold, and strength is not achieved without effort. Armed with the leak-proof realm's tolerance for high temperatures, formidable self-healing ability, and the recently acquired crafting the subtle and mysterious to minutely control her body, Yu Yanmei's gastric wall cells gradually consumed the semi-colloidal gold, not wasting a speck. The entire process was like accelerated natural degradation by countless factors, and the beauty deliberately slowed down the speed to allow Lu Yao to observe. Yu Yanmei opened her mouth and exhaled a scorching breath of true qi, saying, when you can use your body as a furnace to digest gold internally, you will be able to ascend to the Jin gold body realm. Lu Yao watched the entire process clearly, seemingly enlightened. Breaking through to the golden body realm demands high requirements for one's physique. It's not something that can be done casually to use one's body as a furnace. You're right, but there's more to it than that, Yu Yanmei instructed. Swallowing gold is not just about eating the metal, the core lies in absorbing gold's eternal property and transforming it into an indestructible will. This approach varies from person to person. Next, I plan to go to Goryeo and break through in battle. This moon fairy, who appeared ethereal and pure, actually had a restless nature. She had previously ventured to the western frontier and now intended to test her sword in Goryeo. Speaking of swords, after practicing spirit refinement of divine fetal breathing, Yu Yanmei's mind force manifested externally, enabling her to subdue the divine sword Tai. With her previous level of cultivation, Tai definitely wouldn't look favorably upon her, and attempting to subdue it would be a fool's dream. But after defeating Yuan Kaisheng and severing the Buddhist spirit, Tai had entered a state of semi-recognition of its master. Thus, under the guidance of Lu Yao, Yu Yanmei boldly extended her mind force and slowly merged into the divine sword. Although somewhat unwilling, Tai still allowed the mind force to permeate its being, and then transformed into a sphere of light, entering Yu Yanmei's head through her facial features. Feeling the additional magical treasure within her divine soul, Yu Yanmei was elated. Magical treasures were exclusive to Thunder Tribulation heavenly monarchs, not something ordinary people could even see, much less possess. Curiously, she spat out Tai from her mouth, saw it grow with the wind, and joyfully played with it in her hand, unable to contain her happiness. It was the first time Liu Yao saw such a cheerful expression on the usually cool beauty, and she truly looked beautiful when smiling. Yu Yanmei was naturally a peerless beauty, and the enhancements brought by her martial Dao realm only served to gild the lily. Standing next to her, Liu Yao's appearance in comparison was like that of an elf standing next to an orc. It should be noted that Liu Yao's looks weren't ordinary either, quite distinguished indeed, but when it came to beauty, he was still utterly outclassed. After joyfully playing around for quite a while, Yu Yanmei finally had her fill. Liu Yao, with a smile on his face, didn't interrupt and only began to share his insights on controlling magical treasures when he saw the beautiful woman retract her thoughts. Yu Yanmei's gem-like eyes carefully regarded him, feeling that her little man was gentle and proper in every way. Initially, she felt somewhat aggrieved when she devoted herself to him, but now she truly believed it was the greatest stroke of luck. Liu Yao quickly finished sharing his insights only to find the beauty still staring at him, which made him ask with some confusion, "What's wrong?" Yu Yanmei seemed to have 1,000 words to express, but after her cherry lips moved several times, all she said was, "Thank you." Liu Yao said with a laugh, "There's no need for politeness between us." Yu Yanmei also smiled beautifully, immediately brightening the room, "You always say that." At this point, their task was completed, and it only took an hour in total. Yu Yanmei glanced at the sky and softly said, "It's still early, you can do what you love." Having said this, her cheeks flushed as she took the initiative to lie down on the bed, even removing the ice jade bracelet from her wrist. This object calms the heart and spirit but is unsuitable for the occasion to come. Liu Yao, seeing her initiative, also removed his ice jade in response to the beauty's invitation. But an idea struck him, and he leaned down to ask, "Grandmaster Yu, can all the internal organs be warmed? What are you up to?" Liu Yao, that annoyingly lovable beastman, spent a warm and delicate day with the cooperation of the Moon Fairy, a day truly beyond words. Happy times are always fleeting, and Yu Yanmei, as the master suppressing the whole army, didn't have much time to waste. The next day in the evening, the pair emerged from the quiet room. Yu Yanmei looked especially delicate and ravishing, brightening every place she visited. Just by coincidence, they ran into Li Pei, who had just returned from the imperial palace. Yu Yanmei's instinct was to run, but the other party had already seen her and came running over excitedly. "I was just looking for you too. Grandmaster, you've been cultivating diligently for 2 days. What progress have you made?" Gazing at her disciple's teasing eyes, Yu Yanmei proudly summoned the divine sword Tai, letting it whirl around her twice. Li Pei said in surprise, "You actually were in closed-door cultivation. It seems I was being overly suspicious." Yu Yanmei gave her a flick on the head, "You're the emperor now, yet you still keep plotting against me. What do you want with us? Is it time to go to war?" Li Pei, holding her head, laughed, "Everything is ready. The army will set out the day after tomorrow." She then briefed them on the situation. The imperial fist of 50,000 men, divided into 5 divisions, each with at least 1 innate expert to lead them. The 1st and 2nd divisions will march north overland, cleaning up the area beyond the borders along the way. The remaining 3 divisions will travel by sea to Lushun port, from where they will advance into Goryeo. The Genhai fleet is also prepared to ambush the Izumo navy. Liu Yao nodded in approval, "Good, let's see how far they can go." The soldiers embarking on this expedition represent the pinnacle of thought and will in the other world. Their success or failure will determine Liu Yao's future attitude towards the people of the divine land in the other world. If they prove useful, he would invest time in nurturing them. If they cannot stand on their own, then his family would carry all burdens, but after that, they mustn't expect any favors. One's own path is walked by oneself. Chapter 518. March 29th, the day the Great Army set out on its campaign. It was the new dynasty's first military action abroad, and everyone from top to bottom took it seriously. The Empress herself led the civil and military officials to send them off and offered a toast on the reviewing stand with ceremonial wine. The commander of the 1st Division of the Imperial Fist Dong Fuxiang, the commander of the 2nd Division Tan Bakuai, stepped forward first to receive their drinks and downed them in one gulp. Both were old hands at the Western Expedition Army and were acquainted with Liu Yao, and Li Pei spoke a few reassuring and encouraging words. Then came the commander of the 3rd Division Fu Fangsheng, followed by the 4th Division's Zhao Sanduo. Monk Ben Ming, considering himself a religious man, had not accepted an official position, but still exerted himself by their side. All of them were old acquaintances of Liu Yao. Fu Fengsheng was already in the innate realm, commanding the most high-level martial artists, making his division the strongest. The commander of the 5th Division was Shi Rongchun. He was the former governor of the Jinmen artillery battery who had tasted noodles brought from Blue Star by Liu Yao. This man was familiar with Li Pei and had previously been removed from his post for bombarding the British-French allied forces without authorization and had simply returned to his hometown to retire. After Li Pei gained power, she quickly promoted him, and his subordinates were mostly former dynasty generals. These 5 men, with their personal abilities and backgrounds, took everything into account, and after drinking the ceremonial wine, they shouted in unison. "We will surely plunder the courts and flatten the enemy." Besides them, various factions also sent out masters to provide support. Following the 1st and 2nd divisions north of the border was the Wudang sect, which sent a white-haired, lean old man. Dressed in an off-white Taoist robe and with a long flute at his waist, he was Uncle Bai, who had once been seen in the secret archives of the Wudang sect. Accompanying him were Bai Lu and several other junior disciples, yet all of them were true inheritors of the blood exchange realm. Such a lineup could be described as luxurious. The Wudang sect truly gave it their all this time, and naturally, Zhang Yunchu and Zhou He were also present to see them off. Zhang Yunchu respectfully said, "Uncle Bai, as your disciple is incapable, you must lift yourself from seclusion. Guns and cannons are blind, please be careful." Uncle Bai, whose real name was Bai Jingting, replied in a voice that was cold yet nonchalant. "Having lived idly for 150 years, I've had enough. It's a fortunate thing to follow in my ancestors' steps and serve the country this time. I surely won't let down the name of the Wudang sect." Zhang Yunchu didn't urge further, turning to look at Bai Lu and the other 3 true disciples, reminding them, "You must be careful as well. Teacher, rest assured, we will fight bravely against the enemy and will certainly not tarnish the reputation of the Wudang sect. You rascals! I'm telling you to watch out for your own lives." With the Wudang sect sparing no expense, the joyful sect naturally would not fall short either. They sent their own sect master and holy maiden Yun Qinglan along with the army. At the moment, Li Pei was expressing the imperial court's gratitude to the martial artists serving the country. Upon seeing Yun Qinglan, she commented with a strained smile. "Sect Master Yun has quite the spirit, personally going to battle for the country's service, it's truly moving." Yun Qinglan had a barbed smile, "I dare not presume, I'm simply trying to alleviate some stress for our lord." The 2 women exchanged snide remarks in private, leaving expressionless in different directions. Li Pei cursed inwardly, "This little wretch. To flirt with Liu Yao, she's actually going into battle herself. How bold!" Afterwards, she maintained her dignified and elegant demeanor, saying farewell to the masters from other factions. Compared to the Wudang and Joyful sect, these were somewhat less impressive, only sending martial artists from the blood exchange or marrow cleansing realms. At this very moment, Liu Yao was seeing off 2 girls from his household about to set out on the campaign. Aside from Yu Yanmei, Sua area was also going. The young girl strongly requested to go out for tempering, hoping to break through to the blood exchange realm. Seeing her determination, Liao Ye and Liu Yao simply agreed, but still arranged for Fran to follow her closely. "Area, Uncle Master wishes you rapid success and a triumphant return." "Thank you, Uncle Master." The little girl was sweet and cute, cradling the very reluctant Ali in her arms. Ali really didn't want to go. She had important things to do, yet she had to go on a business trip. However, she dared not stay alone in Jingyi Garden, fearing she might become a snack for the spiritual sparrowhawk. With no other choice, she pinched her nose and accepted the situation. At that moment, Liu Yao sent a private message to Fran, "Take good care of this little girl. I've stored a special power in the lake sword that she can use in case of crisis." Fran readily took on the responsibility, "Don't worry. I'll make sure to bring her back to you safe and sound." This person had been extremely eager to help lately, almost granting every request. Liu Yao laughed and said, "It seems the distinguished Miss Fran has some favor to ask of me." Fran gave him a glare and stood tall and proud, "I have some ideas about reconstructing my body, but it has to wait until after your thunder baptism." She paused for emphasis, "Holy Knight, we are on the same side now. It benefits you if I become stronger." Before she could finish, Liu Yao said solemnly, "I will definitely help you. That is without question." Reassured by his promise, Fran breathed a sigh of relief. Watching Liu Yao's cultivation level advance by leaps and bounds and knowing his upcoming training plan, this foreign girl ignited her hope for rebuilding her body, which might be her only remaining hope. At that time, from afar came the thunderous cheers of "Long live," signaling that the army was about to set off. The group ceased their childlike behavior, waved goodbye succinctly, and Yu Yanmei left with the second girl. Liu Yao smiled, leaped up, and in a few bounds, he reached the reviewing stand. Instantly, the arena fell silent, all eyes turning to the divine manifestation Grandmaster above. Liu Yao surveyed the crowd, seeing a mix of familiar and unfamiliar faces. He slowly said, "You all should know that I am not a petty person. This expedition is to attack the unrighteous and punish the unjust, but it is also for you to fight for your future. Do well, and I wish you all a triumphant victory." The crowd hesitated for a moment, then, led by the officers, they shouted, "We will fight to the death to repay the country's favor." Everyone thought this was a routine morale boost before the battle and didn't think much of it. Meanwhile, Liu Yao had left the reviewing stand and returned with the Liao family sisters. The Liao family sisters would not participate in battle this time. Instead, they were to be a reserve force stationed in Imperial City, ready for emergencies. In the days to come, Liu Yao needed to focus on his cultivation, whatever matters arose would be handled by them. At the same time, Lieutenant Inu Seiichi of the 37th Battalion of the Osaka Division had finally arrived at the capital of Goryeo Seoul. Arriving with him were the elite forces from the various military corps of Izumo. They were not only there to strengthen Goryeo's defenses but also had a battle plan to seize the lands beyond the Great Yi dynasty's border through a land assault. Inu Seiichi, due to his young wife's suicide, had now become a notable figure. Upon disembarking, he was received by the commander Hayashi Senjuro. Hayashi Senjuro was the head of the Izumo forces stationed in Goryeo and also served as the governor of Goryeo, essentially the emperor of this land. Accompanied by military police, Inu Seiichi quickly arrived at the military headquarters. Just as he passed through the main gate and walked by the parade ground, he witnessed an unusual spectacle: two soldiers executing prisoners by decapitation. Wielding katanas, they stood beside a row of kneeling captives. With each flash of cold steel, a head flew off, with reporters excitedly taking photographs at the side. This sight was not unfamiliar to Inu Seiichi, who instantly recognized it as the infamous competition of 100 head cutting. Two junior lieutenants noted Tsuyoshi and Ito Toshiaki each held a treasured family sword. They bet on who could first decapitate 100 people, thus beginning their contest. Their progress was updated daily, serialized by the Kyoto Daily News, sparking widespread public interest. Inu Seiichi had been following this event and couldn't help but comment, "When I left, their tally was already at 84 and 86. I wonder who will win in the end. It's really suspenseful." Inu Seiichi had not expected to encounter such heroic figures upon just arriving at the military headquarters. Thinking of the imminent meeting with Hayashi Senjuro, he couldn't help feeling a bit nervous. This army general, once a member of the Imperial Guards, was rumored to possess an imposing dignity. Chapter 519 Izumo Headquarters in Goryeo. In the quaint and ancient-fashioned office, Inu Seiichi finally met the commander Hayashi Senjuro. Behind the thick, large solid wood desk sat a frail, elderly man. His large, protruding ears were paired with an unusually small head, making him look particularly comical. Inu Seiichi immediately realized that the army general before him had goblin blood. Goblins were the native inhabitants of a few islands in the southeast, known to be lazy, stupid, and particularly vicious. Having such lineage was not something to be proud of. Yet, the person before him was the commander of the Izumo forces here and was also a confidant of the emperor. Inu Seiichi dared not look any further and hastily focused ahead, standing at attention and giving a military salute. Hayashi Senjuro said with a warm smile, "Welcome to Goryeo, Lieutenant Inu." The broad desk was filled with various documents. He was busy with preparations for the upcoming war. "Your wife was truly remarkable, she inspired the morale of the people all by herself. I deeply respect that." Inu Seiichi declared loudly, "I will fight to the death carrying on Chioko's wool. Please assign me to the most dangerous front line, where I'll vent the pain of my lost wife upon the Shina people." "You are spirited indeed," Hayashi Senjuro laughed and said. "The Shina are invading en masse without naval supremacy, truly a path to death. Who knows, the war might be over by the time you reach the front." Hearing this, Inu Seiichi was momentarily stunned. Hayashi Senjuro continued, "Moreover, you are the focus of public attention, you mustn't come to harm. Ah, I've got it, you'll report to the Epidemic Prevention and Water Supply Troops. Inu Seichi was somewhat disappointed. He saw the Yi dynasty's invasion as a great opportunity to achieve glory and distinction. The Epidemic Prevention and Water Supply Troops sounded like the lowest echelon of the corps. Why did the name sound so familiar? Hayashi Senjuro patiently explained. Lieutenant Inu, the place you are being sent to is no simple matter, it is indeed carrying the hopes of the great Izumo Empire, so do not take it lightly. Inu Seichi felt a stir in his heart, suddenly recalling rumors within the military. Could it be? Just then, the sound of military boots on the floor came from the entrance, and an army major walked in. He presented a telegraph with both hands respectfully. Sir, there's a message from the Navy. Glancing at it, Hayashi Senjuro's face lit up with joy, and ripples formed above his head from the true chi, obviously very excited. The pride of the Imperial Navy, the Yamato, has been deployed. The Shina's end has come. The Izumo side was very confident the Yi dynasty's navy was inconsequential, and naval supremacy was surely on their side. With the strong support of naval artillery, the army was sure to crush the enemy and take the opportunity to conquer the Yi dynasty's entire northern region. The fertile divine land was much stronger than Goryeo. Hayashi Senjuro felt he had a great chance of being appointed the governor of the northern three provinces of the Yi dynasty. Immediately summon all officers above the rank of major to a meeting. Sir. Unexpectedly, the first combat encounters between the two countries broke out at sea. Ever since they received the Ji Xuanjiu, the 3,000 men of the Genhai fleet had hardly had any rest. They worked day and night with great enthusiasm, studying everything on the warship. In the span of nearly a month, they had almost completely mastered the vessel. Only a few too advanced features were beyond their understanding, such as those severely dependent on satellite technology, as well as missile silos and aircraft catapult systems. Meanwhile, the Genhai fleet's chief engineers, having witnessed the internal structure of the warship, also had their horizons broadened, and they even managed to repair the Leiwan and Jingyuan warships. Add to that several small gunboats with a displacement of over 1,000 tons, and they had barely scraped together a fleet. This moment, this fleet was already prepared for combat. Perhaps it was fate that brought the fleet back to the very place where they had been ambushed by the Izumo people before the Daedong Trench Sea area. This location was a vital maritime choke point, and both the captain, Lin Zhongqing, and his deputy, Deng Baxiang, made the same assessment. Whether the Izumo Navy intended to harass supply lines or shell troops on shore, they had to pass through here. So they arrived early and patrolled nearby, lying in wait for their prey. The two officers were very confident that they could catch the Izumo people completely off guard. Their confidence stemmed from the miraculous radar on board the warship. Having been refined through the ordeal of a world war, radar had come into being, but only the top powers of Einheit and Menes possessed it. It was much more reliable than visual observation, capable of detecting the enemy tens of kilometers away. As expected, on the fourth day of the campaign, the Ji Xuanjiu was the first to spot the Izumo fleet 60 kilometers away. Damn it, they really came. They're heading straight for Lushun port, clearly aiming to cut us off from behind. Captain Lin Zhongqing immediately ordered, calculate our course, full speed ahead, and grab the T position. Aye sir. During combat, the fleet would try to align in a single line, striving to position their broadsides towards the enemy's vessels to form a fan-shaped zone of attack. In this way, one side would take advantage in a cross arrangement, while the other would be pummeled in a vertical lineup, resembling the letter T. The soldiers aboard the Ji Xuanjiu were embarking on their first battle, feeling both exhilarated and slightly nervous. But little did they know that on the Izumo side, the Yamato was also on its maiden combat mission. The staff even specifically chose the soft persimmon that was the Yi dynasty to squeeze, just to enrich the Yamato's combat experience. At this moment, the Izumo fleet, composed of 10 ships, was slowly making its way across the boundless sea, with the towering silhouette of the Yamato particularly conspicuous. The commander of the Yamato, Colonel Matsuda, suddenly felt a sense of unease. As a practitioner of spirit refinement and out-of-body technique, he wouldn't get restless without reason. With the Yamato here, the Empire should have no rivals in this sea area. Colonel Matsuda was a cautious man, and he immediately raised his hand to gesture, summoning a splendidly colorful large bird that alighted before him. With a wingspan less than 2 meters, it should be of the marrow-cleansing realm. It looked a bit like a golden pheasant, yet it was the national bird of Izumo, the green pheasant. Colonel Matsuda said to it, "Shota, I need to borrow your body." After he finished speaking, his divine soul exited his body through the brow and entered the brain of the green pheasant, completing the possession. The next moment, the brightly colored large bird soared into the sky with a flap of its wings. Colonel Matsuda, controlling the body of his spirit pet to scout ahead, was akin to cheating in an era without radar. After a while, with the excellent vision of a bird, he suddenly spotted the equally conspicuous Ji Xuanjiu. Colonel Matsuda was shocked and hurried back as fast as he could. But the large bird, shaped like a golden pheasant, was flying far too slowly, and by the time he returned, the distance between the fleets had already narrowed to less than 30 kilometers. They were already within firing range. The enemy hadn't opened fire yet, simply to get closer for a concentrated barrage. Colonel Matsuda's divine soul returned to his body, and he bellowed, "Enemy attack!" His voice instantly spread throughout the ship, and all they could do was prepare to meet the enemy, to avoid being caught completely unprepared. At that moment, having entered a favorable tactical position, the Genhai fleet was equally astonished to see the imposing Yamato. But that was all. Nobody wanted to back down, and everyone had strong confidence in the warship bestowed by the true lord. Lin Zhongqing decisively gave the order, "Fire!" Chapter 520. Ji Xuanjiu had 3 triple-turreted gun mounts, with 9 406 mm naval guns. The gunners were the 3 officers with the highest spirit refining stage in the entire fleet. They entered the spirit refining state and locked onto the Izumo firmly, and with the assistance of advanced optical rangefinders, their capabilities were further enhanced. As soon as Commander Lin Zhongqing gave the order to fire, the soldiers quickly squatted down and grabbed onto their surroundings. Then came a deafening roar and violent shaking. Out of the gigantic barrels, over 20 meters long and large enough for an adult to crawl into, burst intense fire and thick smoke that covered the entire battleship, and the cannonballs weighing 1.2 tons screamed out of the barrels. When the Ji Xuanjiu was built, large-caliber naval gun technology was already mature, and the accuracy was exceptional. The combination of the spirit refining state and the optical rangefinder created a miraculous effect. Even over a distance of more than 20 kilometers, the first round of fire achieved remarkable results. The first 406 mm cannonball struck the Izumo straight at its number 1 main turret at the bow. Amidst the loud clashing sounds of metal, the shell was blocked by armor up to 650 mm thick and did not penetrate, exploding immediately afterward. But the enormous impact still injured more than a dozen Izumo Navy sailors inside and damaged the observation equipment. Hot on its heels, a second scorching hot cannonball whistled through the air, hitting the Izumo's secondary turret. This turret was outfitted with 155 mm naval guns and was less robustly defended, with armor only 25 mm thick. It was penetrated on the spot and exploded violently, sending the entire turret flying into the sky. After that, 3 more cannonballs hit different parts of the Izumo. Unfortunately, none penetrated the thick armor of up to 410 mm on the battleship's hull. But such results were unexpectedly good, and the morale of the Genhai fleet surged. Beautiful shot! The battleship granted by the true monarch is miraculous. The officers and soldiers all hoped to expand their victory, to annihilate this obvious ace of the Izumo Navy in one fell swoop, and in doing so, not only establish their merits but also, seek vengeance. Lin Zhongqing roared, "Hurry up and load! Relay the shooting parameters to all ships." Ji Xuanjiu had a more advanced targeting system, and by transmitting data to friendly ships, they could make slight adjustments and hit their targets. However, accompanying ships like Leiwan and Jingyuan, built 20 years ago, were already out of date and couldn't contribute much. The key to victory or defeat in this battle still depended on the Ji Xuanjiu itself. On the Izumo, even though they were suddenly attacked, they managed to cope with it. But Colonel Matsushima's earlier shout had prepared everyone psychologically. Taking advantage of the enemy's main guns reloading, they quickly launched a counterattack. At this moment, the 2 fleets, one horizontal and one vertical, happened to form a T-shape. The Genhai fleet had the advantageous horizontal position, lined up in a row, allowing all of their main guns to be operational. Izumo was in the vertical line, with only its front main guns and some of the side secondary guns able to fire forward. The rear main guns couldn't be used. In the rush of the moment, there was no time for careful consideration, and the 6 460 mm naval guns on the Izumo immediately fired. The 1.5-ton cannonballs, flying at twice the speed of sound, missed their target amidst the tossing waves, either soaring over the enemy ships or splashing into the sea, creating wavelets tens of meters high. This was the standard expected of regular battleships generally. The first round of fire was for calibration. Before radar was perfected, fire control and gunnery ranging methods were quite primitive, requiring initial test shots to observe where the shells landed, followed by adjustments for precise aiming. But having lost the initiative, and missing with the first round, the Izumo could only helplessly endure another volley of enemy cannon fire. Scorching shells, trailing a ripped air trajectory, smashed down like meteors, causing ground shaking, mountain quaking explosions. Many sailors were flung against the bulkhead, breaking who knows how many bones. Moreover, one armor-piercing shell with a perfect angle struck, piercing through the bow armor of the Yamato, tearing open a nearly 2-meter diameter hole, allowing a huge influx of seawater into the watertight compartments. Faced with such a disadvantage, the commander of the Yamato, Colonel Matsushima, didn't choose to retreat but instead ordered, "Full speed ahead. Close the distance." The helmsman repeated the captain's words loudly and immediately charged at the enemy at full speed. Courage favors those who meet on a narrow path. If their cannons are accurate, then close the distance to negate their advantage. The Izumo side, from top to bottom, had full confidence in their own Yamato. Don't look at the few cannonballs they had taken now, but for a rugged battleship, such damage was hardly significant. The combat effectiveness of the Yamato was hardly affected, maintaining high speed. Using only the front 2 main turrets, it rapidly closed the distance. But the other Izumo battleships following behind were seriously out of luck. Whether the Yamato fired or was hit, it would produce billowing gun smoke, seriously hindering the vision of friendly forces and causing chaos. But what was even worse, cannonballs aimed at the Yamato could easily veer off and hit themselves instead. One could see at the rear, an Izumo supply ship getting struck by a 406 mm naval gun, immediately breaking into amidship. Following that, the heavy cruiser Aoba got its bulkhead pierced by an armor-piercing shell, which blew off the entire boiler room, igniting a large fire and immobilizing it. This group suddenly realized the gap between their ships, no one could withstand a salvo from the enemy. Thus, they slowed down, seeking opponents more on an equal footing, the smaller vessels of the Genhai fleet. The Yamato did not care about these little brothers that were only a 1/6 or 7th of its own tonnage, and kept executing its own tactics, finally closing the distance with the enemy to within 15 kilometers. Seeing the enemy bearing down with great momentum, Captain Lin Zhongqing remained undaunted and even communicated with his deputy captain in charge of the rear turrets, Deng Baxiang. "If the Izumo people are in such a hurry to meet their death, let's accommodate them." Deng Baxiang had been watching the enemy ship closely and now said, "The enemy is at full speed of only 27 knots, much slower than us." "Good, we'll strike with speed against slow." Lin Zhongqing immediately shouted, "Hard to port." The Ji Xuanjiu immediately traveled at full speed to the left, maintaining a 35-degree angle with the Yamato that was chasing her from behind. Next, the two battleships chased each other across the vast ocean, not giving an inch. Their distance remained at around 15 kilometers, and secondary guns also began firing at each other. For a while, the sea was filled with the roars of cannons and the sizzling trajectory of cannonballs crisscrossing like a meteor shower, with the pungent smell of gunpowder spreading in the air, as the battle reached a fever pitch. After about 15 minutes of pursuit, the Yamato gradually realized something was wrong. Maintaining a 35-degree angle between the ships, all of the enemy's main guns could be brought to bear. While they themselves were at a serious disadvantage, they could still only use 2 turrets to fight back, and could only hit the opponent's steeply angled armor. After an exchange of fire, the Ji Xuanjiu also took a few hits. But although its armor was slightly thinner than the enemy's, its metallurgical technology was far more advanced, and its durability wasn't any less. In addition, with a large inclination angle, the enemy's cannonballs caused nothing more than violent shaking, without causing obvious damage to their own hull. In contrast, the Yamato was in a much more pitiful state, having been hit so many times that they lost count. The sturdy hull was already severely breached in multiple places. Having been led on a wild chase, Colonel Matsushima finally realized this was going badly and quickly ordered a retreat. But how could Lin Zhongqing let him escape? He immediately ordered his warship to cut through the waves, turned the bow, and chased after them. This time it became the Yamato trying to escape with the Ji Xuanjiu in pursuit, which took only 3 minutes to catch up head-on. Realizing he had been easily caught, Colonel Matsushima finally recognized that the enemy surpassed them not only in gunnery skill but also in speed. Where did these Shina people get such advanced battleships? But by that point, admiration was useless. The two battleships were like combatants locked in a mortal struggle, one of which was clearly no longer able to keep up.